Chapter 218. Royal Grade Spirit Inscription. Qin Yun did not immediately agree. Instead, he asked clearly, "What do you need help with? Tell me first. I'll do what I can." Lan Fengjin looked around before pulling Qin Yun into a warehouse. There was a lot of wine in the warehouse. Lan Fengjin sat on a large vat and took out a stone slab. She placed it on her wheat-colored thighs and hooked her finger at Qin Yun, indicating for him to go over. When Qin Yun went over, he saw that there were many inscriptions engraved on the stone slab. "This is a set of inscriptions," Lan Fengjin said. "If this is a set of inscriptions, it will be very close to a Xian inscription. It should be a top-grade spirit inscription or a royal grade spirit inscription." Qin Yun squatted down and leaned his head over to take a closer look. Lan Fengjin smiled slightly. "Good eyesight. This is a royal grade spirit inscription. The bright and dark lines are both here. What I want your help with is to turn this set of spirit inscriptions into a talisman. I will provide you with a spirit beast skin." Spirit beasts were powerful beasts above rank 9 demonic beasts. They were as powerful as spirit beasts. It was said that spirit beasts could speak the human language and had the same intelligence as humans. Only those in the martial Dao realm could deal with spirit beasts. Qin Yun was also somewhat excited as he said, "Sister Lan, can you tell me what kind of spirit inscription this is? It's not difficult to create a spirit talisman, but I can't guarantee that you will be satisfied. At most, I can only carve a set of spirit inscriptions on it. At most, it will be a top-grade spirit talisman and not a royal-grade spirit talisman." The grade of a spirit talisman was determined by its power and difficulty. The most intuitive thing was the number of spirit inscriptions. Generally speaking, the more groups there were, the stronger the talisman would be and the higher the requirements for the materials needed. The mid-grade body-securing bone talisman that Qin Yun had refined was very close to a high-grade spirit talisman. If he were to carve another set of body-securing inscriptions, it would be a high-grade spirit talisman. However, the difficulty would be much higher. Lan Fengjin laughed lightly. "I can't tell you what spirit inscription it is for now. You just need to help me create a talisman. After you succeed, I'll give you my magical beast crystal egg as a reward. You've given me both the bright and dark lines. Even if you don't tell me, I'll be able to test it out in the future." Qin Yun held the stone slab and said with a smile. Lan Fengjin smiled and said, "Without the special talisman paper that I provide, you can't use these spirit inscriptions to make a talisman. The main use of this group of spiritual inscriptions is to set up formations and make talismans. It can't be used to forge weapons. For the sake of the magical beast crystal egg, I'll help you refine it." Qin Yun did not ask further. In any case, with this set of spirit inscriptions, he would definitely be able to test it out in the future. Lan Fengjin laughed tenderly. "Don't be discouraged. If there's a chance in the future, I'll tell you the use of this set of spirit inscriptions." Qin Yun took out a piece of bee skin and began to use a carving knife to carve on the bee skin. This was to familiarize himself with this set of royal-grade spirit inscriptions. Only after familiarizing himself with it could he officially make it. "You want to make it here?" Lan Fengjin asked. And Qin Yun nodded. The 36 spirit inscriptions he had obtained were only high-grade spirit inscriptions in terms of complexity. There were no top-grade or royal-grade spirit inscriptions at all. Now that he was able to come into contact with a royal-grade spirit rune, he was extremely excited. Learning to master top-grade spirit inscriptions and royal-grade spirit inscriptions was a very important stage. Only by mastering them well would he be able to learn Xian inscriptions in the future. Qin Yun was only at the 7th level martial body realm, and learning Xian inscriptions required a martial body realm cultivation. Now, he had more or less mastered high-grade spirit inscriptions. Top-grade spirit inscriptions and royal-grade spirit inscriptions were extremely rare. To be able to encounter them now was an extremely rare opportunity to learn. Lan Fengjin said in a low voice, "You can't do it here. This is the 2nd district, and there are many spirit beasts roaming about. Let's leave the first town first. You should familiarize yourself with this set of spirit inscriptions first." "Sister Lan, where did you come from? There's actually a royal-grade spirit inscription. Are you from the Divine Inscription Palace?" Qin Yun asked. From what he knew, only the Divine Inscription Palace and Blue Spirit Star Palace had spirit inscriptions of this level. No, don't ask too much. Lan Fengjin smiled mischievously and used her knee to nudge Qin Yun, who was sitting on the ground. Qin Yun curled his lips. For some unknown reason, he pinched Lan Fengjin's thigh. "Aye, you stinking brat." Lan Fengjin giggled and said, "You're very dishonest." She giggled and rubbed her thigh against Qin Yun's cheek. "Sister Lan, if you tease me like this, I won't be able to calm down and familiarize myself with spear inscriptions." Qin Yun sighed. Although Meng Failing was a charming demoness, she was usually very restrained. As for the Lan Fengjin in front of him, she was dressed in a fiery and sexy manner, revealing her 2 long legs and navel. She looked robust and valiant, but also somewhat charming. What Qin Yun did not expect the most was that this valiant and charming beauty was actually very coquettish. "Little brat, don't think that I don't know. You're always staring at my thigh." Lan Fengjin laughed. "It's mainly because you're dressed too boldly." "Are you usually like this?" Qin Yun sat on the ground, leaning against a wine jar. Lan Fengjin sat on the wine jar beside him, swaying her seductive long legs. Lan Fengjin looked at Qin Yun seriously inscribing spirit inscriptions and said with a smile, "That's not it. I only wear this when I come out to play. Speaking of which, a daughter of the heavens like Xiao Yuelon is your wife. Why aren't you being more honest? With such a beauty at home, you're still thinking about other things." Qin Yun sighed. "Sister Lan, I've seen many beauties, but there aren't many who are as charming as you. Your entire body exudes an aura that makes people want to commit crimes. You're really trying to kill me by dressing like this." When Lan Fengjin heard this, she let out a series of refreshing laughter and said, "Indeed, there were quite a few people who tried to touch me. That's why I took their lives. This is really killing me. Brat, what kind of feelings do you have for Yang Shiryu? She's also a great beauty. It's impossible for you not to be moved." Lan Fengjin was just like Lan Fei Lin, caressing his handsome face seductively. A handsome and capable youth like Qin Yun was very popular with women, especially a coquettish and bold woman like Lan Fengjin. Once they met, they would definitely not let go of the opportunity to tease him. "She's my teacher. I respect her." Qin Yun felt that he had suffered a loss when his face was touched. He cursed inwardly. "Stinking brat, I don't believe your words." Lan Fengjin scolded with a smile and removed her hand. She said, "All right, I won't tease you anymore. Focus on your work." In order to focus, Qin Yun took out the beast's skin and stone slab and went to a corner to seriously inscribe. Lan Fengjin said, "Qin Yun, Yang Shiryu has already stepped into the martial Dao realm. In terms of talent, she's about the same as me. Right now, she's Xiao Yanglong's fiancée. You have enmity with Xiao Yanglong. What do you plan to do?" When he heard that Yang Shiryu had stepped into the martial Dao realm, Qin Yun fell silent for a few seconds. He was secretly delighted as he said, "I can only work hard to increase my strength and grasp power. Only then can I change everything. Indeed, only by being strong can one fight against a disgusting fellow like Xiao Yanglong. He did many disgusting things in the Blue Spirit West Palace, and is also a very vicious fellow. He even harmed his own father, so there's nothing he can't do." When Lan Fengjin talked about Xiao Yanglong, her face was filled with disgust. Qin Yun was certain that Lan Fengjin was from the Blue Spirit Star Palace. He asked, "Sister Lan, which palace are you from? Nangong, Eastern Palace, Northern Palace, or Western Palace?" Lan Fengjin smiled and shook her head. "No, I'm from the Saint Palace. Do you want to enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace? The Eastern Palace welcomes you very much. When the time comes, if you perform well, I can recommend you to enter the Saint Palace and become a saint." "The Saint Palace is indeed powerful," Qin Yun exclaimed. "Yang Shiryu and your wife, Xiao Yuelon, have both joined the Saint Palace. They are both my junior sisters, and they share the same master as me." Lan Fengjin smiled happily. Qin Yun could not help but blush as he hurriedly said, "Sister Lan, don't speak nonsense in front of Teacher Yang. That'll be very awkward." Lan Fengjin giggled and said, "Don't worry, I definitely won't speak nonsense to her. Let's see how guilty you are. Qin Yun snorted and asked, Sister Lan, Boss Xia has also entered the Saint Palace. Have you heard of him? Xia Wufeng, a sword cultivator. When he mentioned Xia Wufeng, the smile on Lan Fengjin's face disappeared. She said seriously, it's hard not to know him. This guy, I don't know if I should call him a sword fanatic or a sword demon. He's extremely terrifying. It's said that in the Saint Palace, he's one of the strongest under the martial Dao realm. If he were to step into the martial Dao realm, his strength would be unimaginable. When Qin Yun heard this, he was secretly happy for Xia Wufeng. Then, he fell silent and focused on inscribing spirit marks. He did not know when he would be able to step into the martial Dao realm. Lan Fengjin seemed to be able to tell what Qin Yun was thinking as she said in a low voice, Qin Yun, if you were to enter the Eastern Palace with your abilities, you would definitely be able to advance by leaps and bounds. It would be a waste of time for you to stay in the Star Xianwu Academy. Qin Yun did not say a word. He had other plans for staying in the Star Xianwu Academy. He firmly believed that there was definitely some inheritance of the martial King Lan Shao hidden within the Star Xianwu Academy. It was just that he had yet to find it. This time, he had earned a lot of Xian points and decided to inquire about the various secrets and legends of the Star Xianwu Academy. 2 days later, Qin Yun had familiarized himself with the set of royal-grade spirit marks. He was confident that he could use it to create talismans. It had also quietened down. The aura of the spirit beasts had already dissipated. Old Tan and company bade farewell to Qin Yun and decided to head to the shelter in the first district. There, they would join a stronger team. Lan Fengjin and Qin Yun left the first town. They did not belong to the first town. After they parted ways with Old Tan, they hurriedly left the first town. They arrived at a forest a few hundred miles away from the first town and entered a cave. Qin Yun began to use the mysterious set of royal-grade spirit marks to craft talismans. The talisman paper was provided by Lan Fengjin and was indeed very special. When he was inscribing spirit marks, he could vaguely feel that the talisman paper contained a suppressed star power. With Lan Fengjin guarding him, he could feel more at ease crafting talismans. After a few days, Qin Yun heaved a long sigh. He had finally refined his high-grade spirit talisman. Chapter 219. Legend of the Dragon. Lan Fengjin picked up the talisman and nodded her head in satisfaction. She took out the magical beast crystal egg and said with a smile, "This is your reward. Also, don't tell anyone about this talisman and don't leak out this set of inscriptions. Otherwise, I'll tell them that you have a crush on Yang Shiryu." Qin Yun smiled bitterly. "Don't worry, I won't leak it out. When are you leaving?" "When you recover, I'll return to Blue Spirit Star Palace." Lan Fengjin said, "I originally entered the first town to find an inscription master to help me craft talismans. I didn't expect to meet you." Qin Yun looked at the magical beast crystal egg beside him and felt delighted. He now had a total of 7 magical beast crystal eggs and many Class 8 and 9 magical beast cores. He calculated that it could be exchanged for 600 million Xian points. 4 hours later, he recovered his strength. Lan Fengjin also changed into a set of blue tight clothes. This was a uniform of the Blue Spirit Star Palace, but the belt on her tight clothes was golden. "I'm a little disappointed that I can't see your thighs," Qin Yun said with a smile. Although Lan Fengjin was tightly wrapped up, she still exuded a valiant and coquettish aura. "Damn, brat, you only know how to look at thighs." Lan Fengjin scolded him with a smile. "Let's part ways here. I really can't bear to part with you. Sister Lan will miss you." "I'll miss your long legs too," Qin Yun said with a mischievous smile. Lan Fengjin snorted and rolled her eyes at him before walking out of the cave. As it was still daytime, Qin Yun did not dare to travel alone. Therefore, he waited until night. At night, he used the power of shadows to hide in the darkness and return to the Star Xianwu Academy. On the way, Qin Yun passed by a few cities and discovered that the city walls were cracked. The aura of spirit beasts came from within. He knew that there were large magical beast hordes in these cities. Magical beasts needed to eat humans to increase their strength. If they took down a city, It would be a large granary for the magical beasts. If humans unite, there's no need to be afraid of a powerful magical beast horde. Qin Yun recalled his experience in the first town. He had killed a horde of magical beasts. Many students were gathered at the edge of the myriad star lake. They were waiting for the ferry from the Star Xianwu Academy. Usually, they would travel every 2 hours, day and night. When Qin Yun arrived, many students recognized him and whispered to each other. Qin Yun caused a huge ruckus. From the looks of it, he probably doesn't know about it, right? The Tianling Empire had just declared itself to be an empire, and the crown prince was killed by him. This is a blood feud. Why would he kill the crown prince out of nowhere? I wonder if it will implicate our Star Xianwu Academy. When Qin Yun heard this, he was alarmed. He did not understand how the Tianling Empire knew that he was the one who did it. After learning of this matter, he did not wait for the ferry. He directly used the flame cloud steps and crossed the myriad star lake from the sky, heading for the small island in the center. That group of people saw our faces last time. After their crown prince and Yin Sheng died, they started investigating this matter. If we investigate, we will know that Sister Failing and the others have already returned to the Star Xianwu Academy. Only I'm still in the first town. After careful analysis, Qin Yun deduced why the Tianling Empire believed that he was the one who did it. The moment he entered the Star Xianwu Academy, he immediately returned to the Star Sun Treasure Tree. Du Gui was outside the Star Sun Treasure Tree, tidying up the fallen leaves. "Teacher!" Qin Yun hurried over and shouted. When Du Gui saw Qin Yun return, he said with a smile, "Qin Yun, tell me honestly, did you kill the crown prince of the Tianling Empire?" "Yes. I originally wanted to kill Yin Sheng, but I was caught by the crown prince. He said that he wanted to kill me to make a name for himself, and I killed him instead." Qin Yun curled his lips. Du Gui nodded and said, "Since that's the case, then it's your personal grudge." The principal has also asked Meng Failing and the others about the ins and outs of the matter. This was the fault of the Tianling Empire, and they attacked our students first, so you don't have to worry about this matter. Our Star Xianwu Academy will not hand you over, but you need to be careful when you go out. Now that there are magical beasts running amok outside, he would definitely pay attention when he went out. It would not be easy for the Tianling Empire to seek revenge, so Qin Yun did not take it to heart. "Teacher, I found a lot of good things. They can probably be exchanged for 600 million Xian points." Qin Yun chuckled. When Du Gui heard that, he was so shocked that he put down the leaf in his hand and shouted, "Really? What do you have?" After Qin Yun followed Du Gui into a cave, he took out a magical beast crystal egg and many magical beast cores. Du Gui was so shocked that he could not close his mouth. Du Gui took a few deep breaths in surprise and asked, "Kid, how did you get a magical beast crystal egg and 7 of them?" "I was lucky and joined a pretty strong team. This team also joined forces with other teams, and then I took advantage of the situation to get it." Qin Yun said with a chuckle, "Teacher, help me find an acquaintance at the Xian Point store. I want to secretly exchange these for Xian Points. I can't let anyone know that I have 7 magical beast crystal eggs." Du Gui nodded and said with a smile, "That's not a problem, but it's not that easy to hide the fact that you have more than 600 million Xian points. Have you thought an excuse?" "I've thought about it. Just say that I used a storage spirit artifact to exchange for a large amount of magical beast cores. That should be reasonable, right?" Qin Yun would rather let others know that he had a large number of magical beast cores than let others know that he had a magical beast crystal egg. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble. "Let's go." When Du Gui saw that a student had obtained so many Xian points, he was extremely happy. He brought Qin Yun and flew straight to the bustling street in the middle of the Star Xianwu Academy. In the middle of the Star Xianwu Academy, in the hall of the Xian Point store, many people were queuing up, using a small number of magical beast cores to exchange for Xian points. Du Gui recognized an acquaintance. When he arrived, he entered a VIP lounge. Not long after, a fat old man wearing a red luxurious robe arrived. "Old fatty, I brought you a big deal. How you plan on thanking me?" Du Gui said with a proud smile. This is Qin Yun, right? I've heard a lot about you. The fat old man chuckled and cupped his hands at Qin Yun. Hello, Elder Fatty, Qin Yun said with a smile. This fat old man was an honorary principal of the Star Xianwu Academy. His name was Pan Dawei, and he was in charge of the main affairs of the Xianpoint store. He was a person with a lot of connections and was also very strong. Pan Dawei invited Qin Yun to sit down with a smile and asked, "What big deal? Just say it." After Qin Yun took out a large pile of items, Pan Dawei's smiling face immediately froze. He looked at the items on the ground in shock. 7 magical beast crystal eggs. How did you get them? Even a small team of martial Dao realm cultivators would not be able to get a magical beast crystal egg so easily. Pan Dawei hurriedly jumped up from his chair and touched the magical beast crystal eggs. I was lucky and picked it up, Qin Yun said with a smile. Elder Fatty, calculate for me how many Xin points are these? Also, please help me keep it a secret. Don't say that I got so many magical beast crystal eggs. Good. Let me calculate how many Xin points I can exchange for. Pan Dawei was extremely excited as he counted the magical beast cores. So many Class 8 and 9 magical beast cores also shocked him. He could not believe that a youth at the 7th level martial body realm could obtain so many magical beast cores. A total of more than 601 million. Take out your Xin point crystal card. After counting, Pan Dawei took a deep breath and took out an octagonal disc. Qin Yun placed the Xin point crystal card on the golden octagonal disc. Pan Dawei dripped a drop of blood on the Xin point crystal card and the disc. Then he recited some oaths. It was mainly about what was in this transaction, who was in it, and so on. After it was completed, more than 600 million Xin points appeared on Qin Yun's Xin point crystal card. The Xin point wealth list will be refreshed once a month. If you don't want to appear on it, then use up your Xin points as soon as possible. Pan Dawei chuckled and said, next time there's such a deal, you can enter this VIP lounge by yourself, and someone will come to inform me to meet you. Du Gui smiled and said, fat old man, how are you going to thank me? I'll treat you to a meal. Pan Dawei laughed and said, why don't we go now? Qin Yun, you come too. Elder Fatty, I want to exchange for the Vajra spirit marrow. How much can I exchange for? Qin Yun asked. Pan Dawei thought for a moment and said, as long as you have more than 200 million Xin points in your Xin point crystal card, you can use 100 million Xin points and 10 million crystal coins to exchange for it. Right now, you can exchange for a total of 5 bottles of Vajra spirit marrow. I'll exchange it now, Qin Yun said as he took out his Xin point crystal card and crystal coin card. Pan Dawei took out 5 golden bottles that were the size of a small wine jar. He took Qin Yun's crystal coin card and Xin point crystal card. After a series of operations, he allowed Qin Yun to permeate his mind into the 2 cards and complete the transaction. Qin Yun's card still had 400 million crystal coins and only had a little more than 100 million Xin points left. After the transaction, he was in a hurry to go back and try out the Vajra spirit marrow. However, he was dragged by Du Gui and Pan Dawei to drink. Originally, he did not want to go, but when he thought that Du Gui and Pan Dawei were both elders of the Martial Arts Academy, he felt that he could get some of the secrets of the Star Xianwu Academy from them. So he followed them. Beside the Xin Point shop, there was a Star Xian restaurant. It was opened by Pan Dawei, so Qin Yun did not stand on ceremony and began eating and drinking heartily. Du Gui was the same as him. He did not even use chopsticks and only used his hands to quickly grab food and send it into his mouth. Pan Dawei scolded with a smile. Old man Du, are you possessed by a hungry ghost? Look at you eating like this. Du Gui said, it's rare for you to treat me to a meal. If I don't eat a good meal from you, I would be letting myself down. Qin Yun had finally witnessed what it meant to eat without any regard for his life. Du Gui was one of them. Elder Fatty, you've been in the Star Xianwu Academy for so long. Have you heard of any legends about the Star Xianwu Academy? Every time I pass by the Myriad Star Lake, I'm frightened by the dark and calm surface of the lake. I keep having the feeling that there's something terrifying down there. Qin Yun asked. Pan Dawei's expression suddenly turned serious as he said, under the Myriad Star Lake, there's a terrifying dragon cow sealed. Its body is like a mountain. It has the body of a cow, dragon claws, dragon mouth, dragon horns, cow eyes, and cow ears. Our island is built on top of this dragon cow. Chapter 220. Heaven's Pride Academy. This is a legend. My teacher told me about it. Pandawe picked up a mouthful of food and ate in a very refined manner. It was hard to tell that a fat man like him would be so refined at the dining table. Dugue finally swallowed the food in his mouth and said, I also heard my teacher mention a legend. He said that there is some treasure hidden inside the Star Sun treasure tree. Pandawe sighed slightly and said, These are all legends and cannot be confirmed, because even we are unable to dive into the deepest part of the Myriad Star Lake. However, I heard from the old principal that there was originally a city in the Myriad Star Lake. Due to some reason, it sank into the ground, and that Dragon Bull is the guardian beast of the Myriad Star Lake. I wonder if those old bastards back then were just making up stories to deceive us. Dugue said with a look of disdain, I've lived in the Star Sun treasure tree for so many years, but I haven't found any treasures. Other than leaves, there's nothing else. Pandawe said with a frown, I think the legend of the Dragon Bull is true, because there aren't many powerful magical beasts that dare to approach the Myriad Star Lake. During this period of time, no magical beast have approached. Qin Yun said with a smile, Our Star Xianwu Academy's defense is strong. It's normal for magical beasts not to come. Pandawe shook his head and said, That's not true. Do you know that the Tian Xian Martial School and the Ling Xianwu Academy have been attacked many times? The various imperial cities have also been attacked many times. Even the Blue Spirit Star Palace was not spared. They have been surrounded by several waves of powerful beasts. As for our Star Xianwu Academy, it was only when the magical beast tide arrived that there were magical beasts that approached. After that, it didn't happen again. Right now, the two martial academies, Tian Xian and Ling Xian, are very envious of our tranquility. After eating, Qin Yun and Du Gue returned to the Star Sun treasure tree. On the way, he learned that Meng Failing and company had already headed to the Imperial City to join the Demon King's army, to wipe out the magical beasts in the Tianqin Empire. After returning to the Star Sun treasure tree, Du Gue guided Qin Yun in his cultivation of the Imperial Spirit Art and the Spirit Concentration Kill. He hoped that he would become a powerful god killer master in the future. After 2 days of study, Qin Yun had learned a lot. Du Gue knew that he was in a hurry to use the Vajra Spirit Marrow, so he did not delay him any longer. Qin Yun took out a huge vat and placed it in the middle of a secret chamber in the depths of a tree hole. Then he took out a large piece of animal skin and placed it under the vat. There were spirit patterns on the bee's skin that formed a formation that could absorb the special spiritual energy within the Star Sun treasure tree and condense it into spiritual liquid. After he activated the formation on the animal skin, a cyclone condensed above the water jar like a cloud. After churning for a while, a lot of sparkling and translucent spiritual liquid dripped down. Not long after, the vat was full. Qin Yun took out the Vajra Spirit Marrow and poured it into the vat. He jumped in and began soaking the Vajra Spirit Marrow. The Vajra Spirit Marrow was golden, like molten gold. When it entered the vat, it dyed the entire vat of clear spirit liquid gold. Qin Yun soaked in the vat and felt a stabbing pain. He could endure it. He had endured this kind of pain too many times before. He could grit his teeth and endure it. Soaking in the Vajra Spirit Marrow could quickly refine the body. The process was also very painful. After all, this was a fast way to cultivate, and one had to pay a price. At the 7th level of the martial body, the Golden Bone realm required one to refine the Vajra bone even stronger in order to turn the Golden Bone Chi into liquid. In other words, one had to condense the Vajra bone marrow. This was mainly used to nurture the martial spirit and turn it into the Vajra martial spirit. Once the martial spirit became the Vajra martial spirit, it would be at the 8th level martial body realm. It would allow the martial spirit to become even stronger. Qin Yun soaked in the vat. Although his body was in pain, he could feel that the Vajra bone was rapidly strengthening. In particular, the golden bone chi that was released was even darker in color. Could it be because I have the 9 yang divine spirit? Therefore, I can absorb more medicinal power from the Vajra spirit marrow? Qin Yin was secretly pleasantly surprised. If that was the case, his speed of improvement would be even faster. 5 days later, the golden water in the vat turned into ordinary water. This meant that the medicinal power had been absorbed. Qin Yin came out of the vat and poured out the water. He continued to condense the spirit liquid in preparation for the next time. If I soak another bottle of Vajra spirit marrow, I will be able to temper my Vajra bone to the peak. He did not expect the effects to be so good. Indeed, it was as he had expected. After soaking in the Vajra spirit marrow once more, he would be able to condense the Vajra bone marrow within his bones through the golden bone chi. Because he had cultivated the black-yellow heart sutra, the Vajra bone also contained the black-yellow chi, making it even stronger. I have 3 martial spirits. This is not easy to cultivate. I'll first transform the vibration martial spirit in my heart into a Vajra transformation. In order to quickly condense the Vajra bone marrow, Qin Yin continued to soak in the vat. He still had 3 bottles of Vajra spirit marrow in his hand. Now, he only needed 3 days' time to absorb a bottle of it. I've reached a bottleneck. After absorbing a large amount of Vajra bone marrow, my martial spirit has reached a saturated state. I can't continue absorbing, but I haven't evolved into a Vajra martial spirit. Qin Yin muttered to himself as he came out of the vat. Right now, he could only refine the Nether Sun martial spirit in his Dantian and the Thunder Fire martial spirit in his arm. Qin Yin used a few days to finish the remaining 2 bottles of Vajra spirit marrow. The 3 martial spirits in his body had reached a bottleneck and were unable to evolve into the Vajra martial spirit. He did not know what the problem was. Just a little more, and I'll be at the 8th level martial body realm. Although Qin Yin had yet to break through, he could not help but feel excited. His martial spirit's level was very high. Once it turned into the Vajra transformation, it meant that the inner force of his martial spirit would be very strong, far stronger than the 8th level martial body. When Qin Yin came out of seclusion, he went to look for Du Gui. Du Gui was wearing a set of rough linen clothes. He stood under the Star Sun treasure tree with his eyes closed. It was unknown what he was doing. When he sensed Qin Yin coming out of the tree hole, he opened his eyes. "Teacher, I've reached a bottleneck. My martial spirit can no longer absorb the Vajra bone marrow and can't evolve into a Vajra martial spirit." Qin Yin hurriedly asked when he saw Du Gui. Du Gui already knew that there was no problem with Qin Yin's martial spirit. His mental strength was so strong that he could more or less sense the fluctuations of the martial spirit in Qin Yin's body. Therefore, he did not find it strange. You have reached a critical juncture. You need to comprehend the spirit of the martial spirit and make your mind and the martial spirit's mind one. Only then will you be able to achieve a spiritual resonance with the martial spirit. Only then will the martial spirit acknowledge you and evolve into the Vajra martial spirit. Because once the martial spirit evolves, it means that it can leave your body and be exposed to the outside world. This means that there is a great risk. The martial spirit has its own spirituality, and you need to guide it to make a decision. After Qin Yin heard Du Gui's words, he fell into deep thought. It was not as easy as he had imagined to break through to the 8th level martial body realm. However, he had a direction. Don't be too anxious. You have just entered the 7th level martial body not long ago. Now that you have reached the peak of the 7th level, it is very fast, and you're only 16 years old. Du Gui said with a smile, "It's better to be safe and improve." Qin Yin nodded. Du Gui said, "There's something you might not be interested in, but I still have to tell you. Our 3 Xian level martial academies will join forces with the Blue Spirit Star Palace to establish a Heaven's Pride Academy. The main purpose is to focus on nurturing some genius students. I'm quite interested. Can I go?" Qin Yun's eyes lit up as he hurriedly said with a smile, Du Gui did not expect Qin Yun to be so enthusiastic. He continued, "This Heaven's Pride Academy will send instructors from the 3 Great Xian-level martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace. These instructors are all in the martial Dao realm. Among them, the Tian Xian Martial School, the Ling Xianwu Academy, and the Blue Spirit Star Palace all have some conflicts with you. Of course, because our Star Xianwu Academy's environment is good, the Heaven's Pride Academy's landing point will be here. We have already created a courtyard, and the disciples of the other martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace will arrive one after another." Qin Yun was even more interested as he said with a smile, "Is there a martial art competition or something? I'm really looking forward to it. I also want to see how strong I am now." Du Gui shook his head and said, "I don't know. I've never tried to understand how the Heaven's Pride Academy operates. It's fine if you want to go. If it's not suitable, you can just withdraw. I heard that if you do well in the Heaven's Pride Academy, you will be rewarded with Xin points. Also, you will need to go out with your instructor to kill magical beasts. There is still a certain level of danger." Qin Yun decided to go. After asking about the location of the Heaven's Pride Academy, he went back and changed into a set of white clothes. Then, he rushed to the west side of the Star Xianwu Academy. There was a large courtyard that had been abandoned for a long time. The courtyard was on the other side of a river and could be seen after crossing the bridge. The courtyard had been abandoned for many years. After renovation, it had become brand new. At the entrance, there was a plaque with the words Heaven's Pride Academy written on it. In order to enter the Heaven's Pride Academy, one had to meet certain conditions. First of all, he had to be at the 7th level of the martial body realm and be under the age of 25. Qin Yun completely met these conditions. The Heaven's Pride Academy was very large. There were many pavilions, and in the middle, there was a martial arts practice field that was more than 100 meters wide. In the middle of the martial arts practice field, there were many groups of students talking loudly. The moment Qin Yun entered, he saw Xiao Yonglong dressed in dazzling blue armor. Xiao Yonglong was in the martial Dao realm, and he was also the chief disciple of the Blue Spirit West Palace. There was a high chance that he would be a teacher here. Xiao Yonglong also saw Qin Yun enter. "Brother Yun, you're finally here." Hua Zhong ran over with a big smile. He was dressed in black armor and looked very spirited and imposing. Morong was also here. He wore the luxurious blue robes of the Blue Spirit Star Palace and held a folding fan in his hand. He walked towards Qin Yun with a smile. When Qin Yun arrived, the other students and the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace quietened down. Many of them had never seen Qin Yun before, but they had heard of the shocking things Qin Yun had done. "Third brother Hua, second brother Morong, you guys are here too. Where's Boss Xie? Is he not coming?" Qin Yun asked with a smile. He could also tell that the two of them had broken through to the 7th level martial body realm. Hua Zhong said with a smile, "Boss Xie is amazing. He is now a saint of the Blue Spirit Saint sect. He went out to kill spirit beasts." Morong said in a low voice, "Brother Yun, Xiao Yonglong is also here. There's also the fellow from the Ling Xianwu Academy who hates you very much." Qin Yun had killed the crown prince of the Tianling Empire. The crown prince's grandfather was the vice principal of the Ling Xianwu Academy. He had a very high status in the Ling Xianwu Academy, so it was not strange for the Ling Xianwu Academy to view him as an enemy. When Xiao Yonglong saw Qin Yun arrive, his expression was ice cold. His eyes revealed killing intent, but he did not say a word. In this place, he was the one who hated Qin Yun the most. In the next 2 days, Qin Yun, Hua Zhong, and Morong were together, waiting for the official opening of the Heaven's Pride Academy. More and more students arrived. There were a total of 200 people, all of them at the 7th level martial body realm or above. There were also a dozen or so at the 8th level martial body realm. As for the instructors, there were actually 50 of them. They were all in the martial Dao realm. It could be seen that the Heaven's Pride Academy was highly valued. Chapter 221. Female Inscription Masters. There were 200 students, and each tutor would lead 4 students. A martial Dao realm instructor guided 4 students, and even brought them out to hunt magical beasts. This made many students secretly excited. One must know that many students in the martial courtyard, their teachers would take 100 or 200 students, at least a few dozen. Moreover, their teacher also needed to cultivate in seclusion, so most of the time, they didn't get much guidance from their teacher. As for Qin Yun, it was very rare for a student to have a teacher. I am the dean of the Heaven's Pride Academy. The one who spoke was Dean Bai of the Three Mysterious Academy. He stood in the middle of the martial arts practice field and shouted, "Let me first talk about the specific rules of the Heaven's Pride Academy and the purpose of our establishment." Dean Bai gave a brief explanation, allowing the students and mentors to quickly understand the competition rules of the Heaven's Pride Academy. The main purpose of the Heaven's Pride Academy was to nurture outstanding students. In addition, they would also share the cultivation techniques of the three martial academies and the Blue Spirit West Palace. In addition, the students of the Heaven's Pride Academy could use their Xian Point crystal cards to exchange for medicinal pills and other resources from the other martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace. For example, if the students of the other martial academies wanted to obtain the Vajra Spirit Marrow, they could exchange it at the Star Xianwu Academy's Xian Point store. This was also not bad because the other martial academies and Blue Spirit Star Palace all had their own unique pills. This way, they could go to the other martial academies to exchange for rare pills and various other things. What excited the students the most was that in the Heaven's Pride Academy, they would have the chance to obtain an Earth-level martial art. All right, all of you line up and then walk to the center of the training field one by one to display your strength. If the instructors are interested in a student, you can compete for the student you want. Students also have the right to choose their instructors. If students perform well in the future examinations, the instructors will receive generous rewards. Dean Bai said loudly, "Instructors, you must choose students who are suitable for you, and then carefully nurture them to grow." Dean Bai did not say what the generous reward was, but the eyes of the mentors all lit up, as if they already knew what it was. Something that even the martial Dao realm wanted to obtain. One could imagine how precious it must be. The first person to go up was a 22-year-old sturdy man. His name was Mo Yong, and he came from the Lin Xian Wu Academy. He had a 4-yang spiritual pulse and a 7th-level martial body. His martial spirit was the Golden Crocodile Martial Spirit, which was a beast martial spirit. He was good at fighting in the water and could even use the internal energy of the water attribute. The cultivation technique that he practiced allowed him to have a very strong defense, the crocodile steel armor. This kind of talent was indeed not bad. Mo Yong, I also have a beast martial spirit, and I specialize in water attribute cultivation. Are you willing to be my student? An old man shouted. He was from the Tianxian Martial School. A middle-aged man wearing a blue robe said with a smile, "Little brother Mo Yong, although I don't have a beast martial spirit, I have a platinum water martial spirit and a 5-yang spiritual vein. I also know an inscription master who can tailor the best spirit artifact for you. As long as you are willing to work hard, I guarantee that you will be able to step into the martial Dao realm at the age of 40 like me." Looking at his blue robe, one could tell that he was from Blue Spirit Star Palace. Mo Yong immediately made his decision and walked towards the blue-robed middle-aged man. This caused the old man from the Tianxian Martial School to feel somewhat awkward. When it was the turn of the next student, there was also a fight. In the end, this student followed the instructor of the Lin Xian Wu Academy. The next 20 to 30 students were all fought over by the instructors. All of them had very good aptitude. At this moment, a handsome young man came up. His face was like jade, and his brows were filled with arrogance. He raised his head and puffed out his chest. With a slightly arrogant tone, he said, "I am Sun Jinhao, 20 years old, 6-yang spiritual vein, platinum fire tiger martial spirit, 8th-level martial body realm from the Tianxian Martial School." The martial arts practice field fell into a brief silence. They were all astonished by this person's talent. Following that, the instructors began to fight over him. "Sun Jinhao, I'll give you 1,000,000 crystal coins. Follow me. I'll pay 1. 2,000,000. I'll pay 2,000,000. Those martial Dao realm instructors kept increasing the price I'll pay 10 million crystal coins. Xiao Yang Long suddenly shouted. His arrogant voice shook the earth, causing the other instructors to quiet down. The instructors were all in the martial Dao realm, and most of them were middle-aged and old. Xiao Yang Long was a junior, and he was so arrogant and domineering. This made them feel unhappy, but they didn't say anything. Xiao Yang Long was able to step into the martial Dao realm at the age of 30. This was a reason why he was so arrogant. All right, you will be my instructor from now on. Sun Jinhao smiled and walked towards Xiao Yang Long. Xiao Yang Long smiled and took out his crystal card. He passed 10 million crystal coins to Sun Jinhao. If his students are all outstanding, he would definitely be able to get a good result in the end. Then, the generous rewards from the instructors would definitely belong to him. Therefore, this amount of crystal coins was very worth it. Following that, students with high aptitude appeared one after another. Now, the instructors were directly sending out crystal coins to snatch them away. The students were also very realistic. Whoever gave more crystal coins would have the ability to choose them. Most of the students at the 8th level martial body realm had already been snatched away. There were 2 women among them, and now there was only one left. The one who walked into the middle of the martial arts practice field was a purple-clothed woman. She was dressed in purple, and her short hair reached her shoulders. Her eyes were a faint purple color, which was very rare. She had a beautiful and charming oval face with a hint of coldness and arrogance. She seemed to be in a bad mood. I am Xue Zai, 18 years old, 8th level martial body. I have no comment on my spirit vein and martial spirit. She was petite, only 6 meters tall, but her voice was loud and clear, neither servile nor overbearing. Although the instructors did not know about Xue Zai's martial spirit and spirit vein, an 18-year-old 8th level martial body would definitely be snatched first. Many mentors crazily bid again. Xiao Yang Long also participated in it, and even bid 15 million crystal coins. In the midst of the intense competition, Lan Fengjin's lazy voice suddenly came out. She said, Xue Zai, follow me. I stepped into the martial Dao realm in my 20s. Crystal coins are too tacky, so I don't need to use tacky crystal coins to fool you. Oh right, I'm a high-ranked inscription master. Please give me your guidance, instructor. Xue Zai's light purple eyes flashed as she said anxiously before walking to Lan Fengjin's side. The entire audience was in an uproar, not because of Xue Zai's choice, but because of Lan Fengjin. This was actually a young woman of the martial Dao realm, and she was even a high-ranked inscription master. This was simply a heaven-defying talent, causing many students to covet it. Not to mention not needing crystal coins. Even if they had to pay a few million crystal coins, they would still want to become her student. In the past, she had never opened her mouth to snatch students. Furthermore, she was from the Blue Spirit Saint Palace, so her identity was rather mysterious. Now that she had finally opened her mouth to accept students, everyone knew of her ability. Qin Yin knew a few things about Lan Fengjin, but he did not know that she was a high-ranked inscription master. He cursed in his heart. That was because Lan Fengjin had previously hidden this matter from him. Now, she had revealed it so generously. Next, it was Huozhong's turn. Seeing his tall and sturdy appearance, the other instructors were not interested. This was because there were still over 100 students behind him. No matter how they looked at it, they were better than Huozhong. However, there were still a few elders who wanted him. Just as Huozhong was about to make a decision, Lan Fengjin suddenly shouted, Huozhong, come here! Although Huozhong looked slow-witted, he was not stupid. Although he did not understand why Lan Fengjin chose him. Although he did not understand why Lan Fengjin had chosen him, he still quickly walked over and thanked Lan Fengjin with a smile. The other students were stunned. They did not understand what Lan Fengjin was thinking. Previously, there were so many 8th level martial body cultivators, but she did not make a sound. Now, she had chosen Huozhong, the 7th level martial body cultivator. Soon, it was Murong Darren's turn. The moment he went on stage, many people started talking about him. He even said that he had offended someone, and Murong Darren. My martial spirit is a secret and my age is a secret. I am at the 7th level of the martial body realm. I am a disciple of the Blue Spirit Saint Palace's Beast Martial Palace and a quasi-saint. Seeing that he was wearing a blue robe that was filled with beast-like spirit inscriptions, he knew that he was telling the truth. The elders from Blue Spirit Star Palace also knew about it. Morong Shaoran, you and Huazhong are good friends. Are you coming to my place? Lan Fengjin shouted. Sir Instructor, you truly have a discerning eye. To be honest, old Huasan is also from the Beast Martial Palace. If he were to use crystal coins to compete with us, he would have to spend at least 10 to 20 million crystal coins, right? Morong Darren chuckled as he ran over. Everyone understood why Lan Fengjin had accepted Huazhong and Morong Darren. They were both disciples of the Beast Martial Palace. There must be something special about them that allowed them to enter the Beast Martial Palace. Qin Yin was right behind Morong Darren. The moment he went on stage, the other instructors all had looks of disdain on their faces. That was because everyone knew about him. Although he had the strength, there was a huge problem with the Heavenly Lion's arm. According to the elders from Blue Spirit Star Palace who understood totems, Qin Yun could turn into a madman at any time because of the Heavenly Lion's arm and then go crazy and kill people. I am Qin Yun, at the 7th level of the martial body realm. I only have one spirit vein and my martial spirit. There's a problem with it, so it's temporarily gone. However, I am very strong and can defeat people like Qin Zhengfeng and Qiyu, who are at the 8th level of the martial body realm. Qin Yun said. Xiao Yang Long said with a sneer. Qin Yun, you were only able to defeat them because of a trick. Do you really think you have the strength to defeat someone at the 8th level of the martial body realm? Isn't it all because you risked going crazy and forcefully borrowed the Heavenly Lion's arm? The other instructors burst into discussion, agreeing with Xiao Yanglong's words. Dean Bai, if no one accepts Qin Yun, what will happen to him? Sun Jinhao asked. Dean Bai thought for a moment and replied, if no instructor wants him, then he can only leave the Heaven's Pride Academy. The instructors all looked at each other, as if no one was willing to accept Qin Yun. Qin Yun cursed Lan Fengjin in his heart. Why didn't she accept him? It was obvious that she was deliberately stalling for time to make him anxious. Qin Yun, can you still forge artifacts now? Lan Fengjin suddenly asked. Now, there's a problem with my martial spirit, so I can't do it for the time being. Qin Yun said. Lan Fengjin knew best whether or not Qin Yun could forge artifacts. Previously, she had witnessed Qin Yun refining a large number of bone talismans and a top-grade spirit talisman. Chapter 222. The status of an inscription master. This, for the time being, Qin Yun could not bear to give the storage bracelet to Lan Fengjin. After all, he was not too familiar with it. Furthermore, a storage bracelet was extremely precious. Lan Fengjin smiled and said, is there really nothing else? Then what will it be? The other instructors could tell from Lan Fengjin's tone that she was threatening Qin Yun to take out a storage bracelet. If he really succeeded, they would be envious to death. I'll have to wait for my fire martial spirit to recover. At that time, I'll definitely give you the storage bracelet. Qin Yun said with a smile. All right then, you're my student. Don't forget this matter. If you dare lie to me, I will teach you a lesson. Lan Fengjin did not continue to force the storage bracelet. She only did this to let others understand why she wanted to accept Qin Yun as her student. Qin Yun heaved a sigh of relief and nodded before walking past Lan Fengjin. Lan Fengjin had actually accepted Qin Yun as a student. This made the other students extremely jealous. They did not think highly of Qin Yun, but Lan Fengjin had accepted him because of a storage bracelet. The relationship between Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin was very good. They both knew each other's secrets, but no one else knew about it. Lan Fengjin had already chosen 4 students. Even if there were more talented ones, she would not be able to choose any more. Everyone did not understand why she did not choose a few 8th level martial body cultivators like Xiao Yanglong. With her ability, those 8th level martial body cultivators would definitely be willing to follow her. Xiao Yanglong secretly gritted his teeth. He He knew how powerful Lan Fengjin was and that he could not afford to provoke her. Now that Qin Yun had become Lan Fengjin's student, Xiao Yanglong was extremely unhappy. He was also worried that Lan Fengjin's group would surpass them. After the instructors finished selecting the students, they were divided into groups. The instructors also began to choose the captains of their students. Which one of you is interested in being the captain? Lan Fengjin looked at Xue Zai, indicating that she would be the captain. However, she did not say a word and only looked at Qin Yun and company. Miss Xue, your cultivation is the highest. You should do it. Although he was greedy for women, he did not dare to provoke Xue Zai. Furthermore, there was also Lan Fengjin here. Qin Yun could also tell that Murong Darren didn't have the guts to be lecherous. Usually, he only dared to hook up with girls with average strength. If he met a ruthless character like Meng Failing, he would hide far away. I'm not interested, Xue Zai said indifferently. Qin Yun said, then I'm of a Yun family. Xue Zai was not interested in being the captain. Murong Darren and Huizhong were Qin Yun's acquaintances, so they had no objections. Therefore, Qin Yun became the captain. Captains, come and collect your profound beast core beads. The competition was starting. This made of to Xian of being to being, it being of being to be being of being is being to be of being is being to be being is of to be of. The competition was about to begin. This made many students secretly excited. When Sun Jinhao walked over to collect the Xian bead, he said to Dean Bai, Dean, please chase Qin Yun out of the Heaven's Pride Academy. He is a very vicious person. He had just killed the crown prince of the Tianling Empire. The crown prince of the Tianqi Empire, Qi Yu and Qin Jingfeng, were all destroyed by him. I'm worried that he will harm the students of our Heaven's Pride Academy. Another 8th level martial body student continued. In the past year or so, there have been many geniuses who have been destroyed by Qin Yun. He seems to like killing geniuses, so I asked the dean to chase him out of the Heaven's Pride Academy. This 8th level martial body cultivator was also a student of Xiao Yanglong. It was obvious that Xiao Yanglong had asked him to say that. Qin Yun said with a displeased sneer, Is there something wrong with you? The crown prince of the Tianling Empire wants to kill me to make a name for himself, so it's normal for me to kill him. Don't tell me that I didn't resist and let him kill me. That's not normal. Qi Yu and Qin Zhengfeng, they competed with me and attacked me viciously. Do you think I should be merciful to them? In your opinion, do you want to thank me for slapping you in the face? Speaking of viciousness, your mentor, Xiao Yanglong, is the most heinous person. Who doesn't know that he turned his own father into a walking corpse? If you guys follow him for a period of time, you will definitely be kept as dogs by him. Xiao Yanglong was infuriated as he shouted, Jinhao, go over and slap him in the mouth. This person is full of nonsense, slandering me and insulting my reputation. He deserves to be beaten. Don't worry, with me supporting you, it's fine even if you slap him 10 times. When Sun Jinhao heard this, he took a few big strides forward. This speed caused many students to exclaim in praise. Huizhong and Murong Darren wanted to go over, but they were held back by Lan Fengjin. She knew that Qin Yun would definitely not suffer a loss. Everyone saw Sun Jinhao walk over like a ghost. Just as they were about to slap him, they suddenly cried out in pain. Scram! Qin Yun bellowed coldly as he waved the heavenly lion's arm. Lightning bolts flashed as he slapped Sun Jinhao's face, producing a dull sound of angry thunder. Sun Jinhao was sent flying dozens of meters away. He lay on the ground like a dead dog, spitting out blood and teeth. His face was deformed. Xiao Yanglong had already realized that something was wrong, but it was too late to stop him. Qin Yun, you are indeed vicious. Watch how I'll take care of you. Xiao Yanglong rushed over in anger. Hitting Sun Jinhao was equivalent to slapping Xiao Yanglong's face. Just as he rushed over, he saw Lan Fengjin arrive in front of Qin Yun. Lan Fengjin's speed was unbelievably fast. It was as if she had teleported. Xiao Yanglong, if you don't want to be beaten up like your students, then step down. Lan Fingjin's face was filled with a sneer as her voice was filled with threat. Xiao Yanglong was so angry that the corners of his eyes twitched. He turned around and ran toward Sun Jinhao to treat his injuries. Teacher, Qin Yan attacked me mentally just now. I was negligent. Sun Jinhao had heard that Qin Yun's mental force was very strong, but he did not think much of it. He believed that Qin Yun's mental force would not be able to affect him in any way, so he did not take any precautions. What he did not know was that Qin Yun had just received in-depth guidance from Du Gue not long ago. He had made great progress in the spirit concentration kill technique, a mental force martial art. Xiao Yanglong looked at Dean Bai and said, Dean, you saw it too, right? Qin Yun did not hold back at all. This will pose a great threat to our entire Heaven's Pride Academy. Please make a decision and chase him out of the Heaven's Pride Academy. Dean Bai smiled faintly. Xiao Yanglong, don't think that just because you're the chief disciple of the Blue Spirit West Palace, you can be shameless. Just now, I clearly saw that you were the one who asked Sun Jinhao to attack first. You don't even put me in your eyes, yet you want me to chase Qin Yun out of the Heaven's Pride Academy? If you're so capable, why don't you chase him out? As a dean, he was standing here, but Xiao Yanglong looked down on him. That was why he had asked Sun Jinhao to attack Qin Yun. However, he did not expect that Sun Jinhao would be attacked by Qin Yun's mental force and then be ruthlessly slapped in the face. Sun Jinhao could also stand up. He covered his face and cursed Qin Yun. Xiao Yanglong gritted his teeth and looked at the others. He said, Instructors, you all know Qin Yun's character. If you wish for him to leave the Heaven's Pride Academy, then stand behind me. As long as more than half of the instructors support him, Qin Yun will have to scram out of the Heaven's Pride Academy. Very quickly, instructors brought their students to stand behind Xiao Yanglong. They were all people that Xiao Yanglong knew. There were a total of 23 people who supported Qin Yun's departure, nearly half of them. When Xiao Yanglong saw that less than half of the instructors supported him, he felt a little embarrassed. However, he still tried to argue. Dean Bai, look, there are so many instructors and students supporting Qin Yun's departure. Please respect their opinions and ask Qin Yun to leave. There are still 27 instructors who haven't expressed their stance. Didn't they say that the minority follows the majority? Lan Fingjin sneered. Can you represent the other 27 instructors? If they don't express their stance, it's equivalent to abstaining, unless they all express their support for Qin Yun to stay. Xiao Yanglong knew that the instructors did not want to offend anyone, so he remained silent. Sun Jinhao walked in front of Qin Yun and said with a sneer, Qin Yun, if you know what's good for you, then scram. As you can see, not many people welcome you here. If you stay here, it will only affect the atmosphere of the entire Heaven's Pride Academy. One of the instructors who supported Xiao Yanglong also said, Qin Yun has 100 million Xian points. This is what he obtained from killing the crown prince of the Tianling Empire. For the sake of Xian points, he can do anything. With him in the Heaven's Pride Academy, we are worried. A dozen or so students and instructors also shouted, Qin Yun, scram! Qin Yun, scram! Qin Yun frowned and said, My 100 million Xian points were exchanged for magic cores with my storage bag, and then exchanged for Xian points. I fought for them myself. Is there a problem? If that was the case, then what Qin Yun said was true. That was because many people were willing to use magic cores to exchange for storage bags. Shue's purple eyes flashed as she hurriedly asked, Qin Yun, do you still have a storage spirit artifact? How do you want to exchange it? Qin Yun thought for a moment and said, I don't have a storage bracelet, but I still have a storage bag. When my martial spirit was fine, I refined some storage bags, and I still have some left. Since you and I are in the same team, I'll give you a discount. 5 Class 9 Monster Cores, how about it? So expensive? 5 Class 9 Magic Cores can be sold for 50 million crystal coins. Your storage bag is worth 50 million? Shue's frowned slightly. My storage bag has a large capacity, several times larger than those tattered storage bags. Furthermore, it has the ability to recognize its master with blood, and its shape is also very exquisite. Qin Yin took out a small bag that shimmered with purple light. It was indeed very exquisite, and it was purple in color. Shuezai was dressed in purple. One could tell that she liked purple very much, and Qin Yin had refined a purple storage bag. I only have 3 Class 9 magic cores. Shuezai's purple eyes shone brightly. It was obvious that she was very tempted. She wasn't the only one who was tempted. Most of the students here were extremely tempted and wished that they could snatch it away. Since you and I are in the same team, I can owe you too, Qin Yin said with a smile as he straightforwardly threw the storage bag to her. Shuezai took it and looked at it. Her heart was filled with joy, but there was no trace of emotion on her face. On the other hand, the color of her light purple eyes deepened. Following that, she took out 3 Class 9 magic cores from her bag and handed them to Qin Yin. Just as Qin Yin put away the magic cores, an old instructor jogged over and said with a smile, "Qin Yin, do you still have any storage bags? Can you give one to me?" Chapter 223. History of Xingxuan. The old teacher hesitated because it was too expensive. It was equivalent to 100 million crystal coins. Qin Yin took out a golden storage bag. Compared to the rough ones, his was simply too good. It could be described as gorgeous. Can it be less? How much space is there inside? When the old teacher saw the storage bag, he was even more tempted. The other students were all very envious, but they could only look at it. This was because such a good thing could only be found by chance. Even if they had enough crystal coins, they would still need the help of an inscription master to refine it. When many inscription masters were refining storage bags, in order to refine them faster, their techniques were very clumsy. This caused exquisite storage spirit artifacts to be very rare. Furthermore, there weren't many inscription masters who had mastered spatial runes. Normally, these inscription masters would not personally refine artifacts and would only be responsible for inscribing runes. The space inside should be able to store 50 to 60 cows. Qin Yin chuckled and said, "Since you're an elder, how about 8 Class 9 magic cores?" For a storage bag to have such a large space inside, it could only mean that the materials used were sufficient and the inscriptions were of a very high grade. To those students, having 10 bowls of space in a storage spirit artifact was already not bad. Their main purpose was to store precious items. All right, deal. The old teacher decisively accepted the price and took out 8 magic cores and gave them to Qin Yin. After the old instructor left, more instructors came over. There were middle-aged and old men. They used 8 Class 9 magic cores to exchange for a storage bag with Qin Yin. This way, Qin Yin would obtain 40 Class 9 magic cores, which could be exchanged for 200 million Xian points. Xiaoyang Long gritted his teeth in hatred. Qin Yin could easily obtain 200 million Xian points, but it would take them a long time to obtain that much. There are no more storage bags for the time being. If you can find an inscription master to refine a storage spirit artifact, I can take some time to help you all inscribe spatial spirit marks. All the instructors will have a share. Qin Yin hurriedly said when he saw that a few instructors were coming over. The most important thing about a storage spirit artifact was spirit inscriptions. Many inscription masters did not have them, so they could only give the semi-finished products to others to inscribe spirit inscriptions. Qin Yin's words made the mentors very happy. One by one, they took out their identity cards and handed them to Qin Yin. On them were their brief introductions. Qin Yin was overjoyed. He sighed bitterly at the instructors and said, "There are more than 20 instructors who want to chase me out of the Heaven's Pride Academy. I wonder if everyone could do me a favor and let me stay here. Only then will I have the chance to help you inscribe spatial spirit marks." "This is easy." An old man hastily stood behind Qin Yin. The other instructors also stood behind Qin Yin, expressing their agreement for Qin Yin to stay. Xiaoyang Long and the 22 instructors behind him were completely dumbfounded. Those 22 instructors felt that they had lost something. They regretted offending Qin Yin, this inscription master. Dienbai said with a smile, "The outcome is obvious. Qin Yin can stay." When Sun Jinhao saw how confident Qin Yun was, he became flustered and exasperated. He pointed at Qin Yun and shouted sternly, "Dean, you saw it just now?" He lured this group of people to speak up for him. "It doesn't count." "Shut up," Qin Yun bellowed angrily. Suddenly, he threw a slap at Sun Jinhao's face, sending him flying and landing at Xiao Yonglong's feet. Sun Jinhao's face was deformed from the slap. He rolled a few times on the ground in pain before fainting. "Well done," an old man shouted. The others also shouted, "Well done, well done." Xiao Yonglong looked at Sun Jinhao, who had fainted on the ground. He was infuriated. He never expected Qin Yun to suddenly attack. He shouted angrily, "Qin Yun, you are too impudent." As he spoke, he released a stream of inner strength that flew towards Qin Yun. The old man who had just bought the storage bag hurriedly stepped forward and opened the inner strength with a palm. He said angrily, "Xiao Yonglong, you're a dignified martial Dao realm cultivator. You don't have the slightest bit of elegance and actually attacked a 7th level martial body kid. Bullying the weak like you has completely lost face for our Blue Spirit Star Palace." Qin Yun now knew that this old instructor was also from the Blue Spirit Eastern Palace. He was not wearing a blue robe, so it was not easy to tell. "Your Eastern Palace has declined so much and you still dare to meddle in other people's business? An old thing like you is not qualified to preach to me." Xiao Yonglong was from the Western Palace and had always looked down on the Eastern Palace. Now that he was filled with anger, he began to curse without restraint. The old instructor was also infuriated when he was scolded. When Qin Yun saw this, he shouted angrily, "Xiao Yonglong, it's one thing for you to bully a junior like me, but you actually dare to be so rude to a highly respected senior. A thing like you who has no respect for your elders is not worthy of being a teacher." He looked at Dean Bai and said, "Dean, please chase Xiao Yonglong out of the Heaven's Pride Academy." Murong Darren also shouted, "Those who support kicking Xiao Yonglong out of the Heaven's Pride Academy, raise your hands. This kind of guy is too dangerous in the Heaven's Pride Academy." Many people raised their hands. Only the 20 or so teams on Xiao Yonglong's side did not move. "Xiao Yonglong scram! Xiao Yonglong scram!" Murong Darren shouted, and many people followed suit. Those old instructors were not stupid. Qin Yun was an inscription master who could inscribe precious spirit inscriptions. If they had a good relationship with him, it would be much more convenient to inscribe spirit inscriptions in the future. Xiao Yonglong had even poisoned his own father. No one would like such a person. Furthermore, there was no benefit in following him. He might even be squeezed out of his benefits. Dean Bai said, "Xiao Yonglong, you saw it too. They don't welcome you. If you know what's good for you, then leave by yourself. Now that more than half of the instructors want you to leave, you should leave." That's what you said just now. Xiao Yonglong was so angry that his eyes turned red. His fists were clenched so tightly that explosive sounds could be heard. When the old instructors saw this, they hurriedly pulled Qin Yun into the crowd. Lan Fengjin, who was watching from the side, also came to Qin Yun's side. She was worried that Xiao Yonglong would do something extreme. "Qin Yun, just you wait." Xiao Yonglong's angry roar resounded through the west side of the Star Xianwu Academy. Xiao Yonglong left the Heaven's Pride Academy with a belly full of anger after saying those harsh words. The few 8th level martial body students carried Sun Jinhao and followed behind Xiao Yonglong. They did not dare to stay behind. They had previously told Qin Yun to scram. If they stayed behind, it was very likely that they would be killed. The 20 or so instructors in Xiao Yonglong's group could only shamelessly stay behind. After all, they had used a lot of crystal coins to recruit students. If they did not get some back from the Heaven's Pride Academy, they would lose money. "Everyone, please prepare yourselves. In 3 days, we will head to the Blue Spirit Star Palace in the Tianqin Empire. That place is surrounded by magical beasts. With the strength of the Blue Spirit Star Palace, we will naturally be able to eliminate the magical beasts. We are only going there to gain experience." Dean Bai said, "This will be your first trial after joining the Heaven's Pride Academy." Lan Fengjin looked at Qin Yun and company and said, "This trial is mainly a test of your trust and cooperation with each other. Qin Yun, you are the captain. When the time comes, you will have to shoulder the responsibility of the captain. Qin Yun nodded and said, I will definitely be a good captain. 3 days later, they would gather here in the morning. In the backyard of the Heaven's Pride Academy, there were many small buildings. Instructors and students lived in the same building, which could bring them closer together. The entire Heaven's Pride Academy was surrounded by high walls. It was square and over 2,000 meters wide. In the middle was a large martial arts practice field. Around the practice field were many small buildings, and there were also many trees and flowers planted. There were also rockery, waterfalls, small rivers, ponds, and pavilions. The overall environment was very good. Many students sighed. The environment here was much better than the one they lived in. The small building that Qin Yun and company lived in was located on the east side of the backyard of the Heaven's Pride Academy. It was beside a small river, and there were many flowers around it. Not far away, there was a pavilion by the river. Murong Darren stood below the small building and lamented. This place is much better than the Beast Martial Palace. It's a pity that we won't be staying here for long before we have to go out to train. Qin Yun said with a smile, The Beast Martial Palace belongs to the Saint Palace. Is it that shabby? Lan Fengjin kicked open the door to the small building and saw a spacious hall. She turned to look at Qin Yun and said, The overall environment of the Star Xianwu Academy is better than that of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Do you know why? This is because the establishment of the Star Xianwu Academy was personally organized by Patriarch Lan Shao back then. Instructor, is this true? Hua Zhong said in surprise. The history of the Star Xianwu Academy is so long. Of course it's true. Patriarch Lan Shao is very powerful. It's said that he knows where the immortal graveyard is. Furthermore, the reason why he's so powerful is because he accidentally went to the immortal graveyard. Lan Fengjin entered the hall and took out a wooden puppet to clean the hall. Qin Yun was secretly alarmed that the martial king Lan Shao was actually related to the immortal graveyard. That meant that the Star Xianwu Academy was also related to the immortal graveyard. When Shuezai saw the puppet, she said in surprise, This puppet is worth more than 300 million crystal coins. The Blue Spirit Star Palace has refined quite a few of them and specially sold them to the nobles of the various empires for their xianyao. Murong Darren said with a smile, This wooden man isn't as powerful as Brother Yun's silver lion puppet. Everyone knew that Qin Yun had refined his own puppet beast, so they all looked at him, hoping that he would take it out for everyone to admire. Lan Fengjin patted Qin Yun on the shoulder and shouted, Brat, why aren't you taking out your lion? She was a high-ranked inscription master and was very interested in puppets. What a pity it's rotten. Qin Yun spread out his hands and said with a wry smile, The ones that broke in the first town were all caused by my carelessness. When I have time, I'll refine another one. Murong Darren said with a smile, Brother Yun, help me refine a puppet. It's best if it has a good figure and 2 holes below it. I'll start saving crystal coins and accumulating magic cores now. What 2 holes? Is it very useful? Shuezai, who looked a little cold, her beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity. Murong Darren chuckled and said, It's very useful. Ha ha. Qin Yun kicked him hard on the butt, causing him to fall to the ground. He scolded with a smile. Second Brother Murong, that's enough. Chapter 224. The first trial after Shuezai left, Lan Fengjin threatened, Murong Shaoran, Zai is not someone to be trifled with. If she finds out the truth, you will have a hard time. Murong Darren was also a little afraid as he said in a low voice, Teacher, I was wrong. Don't tell Zai. I will definitely be honest in the future. They each went to choose their own rooms, and after a simple tidying up, they were called to the hall by Lan Fengjin. Lan Fengjin said, Qin Yun, you must take good care of the demon core Xian bead. This is the key to completing the first trial. Qin Yun took out the transparent demon core Xian bead and nodded. Lan Fengjin said again, All right, you guys have to discuss the battle plan and cooperate well with each other. You guys discuss first, I'll listen from the side and give you some suggestions. Qingyun looked at Shui Zai and said, Zai, what type of attack are you good at? Or do you have any special martial skills? Can you tell me? Huazhong and Murong Shaoran are my friends. I'm more familiar with them. I need to have a rough understanding of your strength before I can make any arrangements. You have a cultivation at the 8th level martial body realm and are the strongest in our team. You are very important to our team. Shuezai's expression had always been calm and slightly cold. She nodded and said, I'm good at close combat. The inner force I use is of the fire attribute, and my weapon is a pair of sickles. She took out 2 black sickles. They looked very rough, but the blades were very sharp. With a light shout, she waved the sickle in her left hand. The blade head flew out, but the handle was still in her hand. Furthermore, there was a black steel wire connected to the part that flew out. Withdraw. Shui Zai retracted her hand, and the blade head quickly retracted. Qingyun and company felt a chill run down their spines. If they would be hooked by the sharp sickle, their heads would roll to the ground. Very powerful. After Qingyun recovered from his surprise, he praised with a smile. He took out his giant king spirit hammer and spirit saber and said, I can fight at close, medium, and long range. This is my forging hammer. This smaller saber is a flying saber that can be controlled with mental power and can be used to attack from afar. Mu Rongjun took out his fan and said, I specialize in long-range attacks. My fan can release a special kind of beast martial spirit's power. I call it the void-breaking slash. It can easily cut through solid things. Huazhong took out a long rod and said with a smile, I am good at close combat and have great strength. If the magical beast is restrained by you, I can kill it with a single strike. Shuezai had a rough understanding of Qingyun and company strength. She nodded slightly. They were all on the same side now. If the entire team performed well, they would also receive generous rewards. All right, I also know how to craft talismans. I will craft talismans in the next 2 days for you to protect yourselves. Qingyun added. After Lan Fengjin heard this, her beautiful eyes lit up and she revealed a faint smile. She knew that choosing Qingyun as her student was the right choice. If this team's results were good, she would also be rewarded. Following that, Qingyun began discussing various tactics with Huazhong and company. Shuezai, Mu Rongjun, and Huazhong were all stunned when they heard this. This was because Qingyun had a lot of experience fighting magical beasts. He had a very good understanding of magical beasts. He had mentioned several examples of battles that made them tremble in fear. Qingyun spoke for more than an hour and felt that it was about time. He said, We still don't know the exact situation at Blue Spirit Star Palace. Right now, what we can do is to understand each other. When we work together to deal with magical beasts, we will be able to cooperate with each other. Lan Fengjin nodded her head in admiration. Qingyun, you are a qualified captain. When I met you in the first town, I really underestimated you. Sister Lan, it's your luck to be able to accept me as a student. You actually want to extort a storage bracelet from me. Humph. Qingyun said snappily. I did all of this to let them know that you are an inscription master, so that they won't look down on you. You also saw what happened later on. Xiao Yonglong, this young martial Dao realm cultivator, was unable to defeat you, an inscription master, and fled in a sorry state. Lan Fengjin laughed. Murong Darren and company were secretly alarmed. Only now did they realize that Qingyun and Lan Fengjin had known each other for a long time. Qingyun said, Do whatever you need to do. I'm going to craft talismans. The body-securing talismans I made are all mid-grade. They can hold a Class 9 magical beast for 2 to 3 seconds, let alone a Class 8 magical beast. Lan Fengjin followed behind Qingyun and said with a smile, I'll help you too. As a teacher, I have to do something as well. Murong Darren rubbed his chin and watched the two of them enter the room in admiration. He sighed and said, Brother Yin is truly amazing. He can even take care of this mysterious tigress from the same palace. Don't speak nonsense. Huazhong patted Murong Darren and said with a smile, I'm going back to my room. Shuezai was in a hurry to play with her storage bag as she hurriedly entered her room. Lan Fengjin was an inscription master herself and knew how to forge talismans. She was now helping Qin Yun refine the beast bones and turn them into talisman paper. This way, Qin Yun only needed to inscribe spirit inscriptions. It's good to have an assistant. As Qin Yun carved the body, securing talisman, he sighed with a smile. A young female martial Dao realm cultivator and a high-ranked inscription master actually have to do odd jobs for you. Lan Fengjin snorted. Qin Yun looked at the blue clothes on Lan Fengjin's body and said with a smile, Sister Lan, you actually look a little feminine when you wear the clothes of the Blue Spirit Star Palace. This doesn't seem like you. Scram, I'm a woman to begin with. Lan Fengjin rolled her eyes at him. Qin Yun could also tell what Lan Fengjin was thinking. She most likely wanted to learn his high-grade spirit inscriptions. The reason why the Blue Spirit Star Palace had declined and was forced to hide here by the other sects was because they were too far behind the other powers in terms of inscriptions. As a result, their overall equipment strength was unable to keep up, and they were beaten up. Sister Lan, how much do you know about the Immortal Graveyard? Qin Yun did not forget about Xiehu, the elder sister of the Grand Preceptor. He had a feeling that Xiehu had a lot to do with the Immortal Graveyard. Lan Fengjin sighed and said, I don't know much either. I only know that Patriarch Lan Xiao has some connections with the Immortal Graveyard. Patriarch Lan Xiao's unique star, Sun Martial Dao, was inspired by the Immortal Graveyard. When Qin Yun heard this, he was alarmed as he thought of many things. The great array that Martial King Lan Xiao had left behind on the Soul Guiding Star Peak had helped him obtain the Nether Sun Martial Spirit. As for this great array, it was extremely likely that he had obtained it from the Immortal Graveyard. The Nether Sun represented Een, the Myriad Star Graveyard. This was because the Nether Sun Martial Spirit came from a huge black hole. That black hole could devour any star, and it was the final graveyard of all the stars and suns. The 9 Yang Divine Spirit and the 9 Een Divine Spirit must have a lot to do with the Immortal Graveyard. Just what is the background of the Grand Preceptor's elder sister? Qin Yun's mind was filled with thoughts as he recalled many past events. Lan Fengjin continued, Back then, Patriarch Lan Xiao had mastered quite a few powerful inscriptions, which was why our Blue Spirit Star Palace became so powerful. However, in order to master those inscriptions, one must possess a certain amount of talent. In order to test one's talent, there was the examination of the inscription gate. Only by passing the inscription gate can one learn the inscriptions. Over the years, the number of disciples who were able to pass the inscription gate's examination became fewer and fewer. Later on, the inscriptions were lost, and our Blue Spirit Star Palace declined as a result. Lan Fengjin sighed helplessly. Qin Yun had a better understanding of the situation in the inscription gate. It was an extremely dangerous examination. Over the years, many geniuses had died in the examination. Is the inscription of the inscription gate related to the Immortal Graveyard? Qin Yun asked again. Lan Fengjin hurriedly said, Of course. Legend has it that in the Immortal Graveyard, there was a very strong barrier. In order to break the barrier, Patriarch Lan Xiao had studied it for many years and comprehended many inscriptions. However, those inscriptions are all very strange and dangerous. If one's willpower is not strong, it is very easy for one's mind to be disturbed by the strange inscriptions, causing one's cultivation to go berserk and die. Qin Yun recalled the Immortal Graveyard diagram. It was also a very strange item. He might need a large amount of knowledge on inscriptions in order to decipher the Immortal Graveyard diagram and obtain the true map. Focus on inscribing. Don't think too much about these things. Lan Fengjin could tell that Qin Yun was very interested in the inscription gate and quickly changed the topic. Although she knew that Qin Yun was very strong, she did not wish for him to participate in the inscription gate's examination. With Lan Fengjin's help, Qin Yun's speed at refining mid-grade bone talismans had greatly increased. In 3 days, he had refined 40 of them. Huizhong, Muron Darren, and Shui Zai each obtained 10. This was enough for them to protect themselves. We have to gather tomorrow morning. Zai, I'll refine a set of light inscription equipment for you overnight. It can heal your injuries. Qin Yun said, "Thank you, but I don't need it. I have my own methods to quickly heal my injuries." When Shui Zai received the 10 bone talismans, she was secretly happy. It could be said that these were the best spirit talismans she had ever received. She always hid her emotions and did not want others to know the changes in her emotions. Therefore, her expression was always calm. The next morning, Lan Fengjin brought Qin Yun and company to the training grounds in the center of the Heaven's Pride Academy. They learned of a very shocking piece of news. Xiaoyang Long had actually returned. It was the palace master of the Blue Spirit West Palace who had allowed him to return to the Heaven's Pride Academy. "Everyone, we have to be careful. People like Xiaoyang Long and Sun Jinhao will definitely not let us off just like that," Lan Fengjin whispered to Qin Yun and company. Qin Yun and company nodded. After all the instructors and students had gathered, they left the Star Xian Wu Academy together. Accompanying them on the road were 3 vice principals of the Black Level Martial Arts Academy. Of course, Dean Bai had to follow them. In addition, there were also Du Gui and some other teachers. If the students of the Heaven's Pride Academy were unable to deal with the magical beasts outside the Blue Spirit Star Palace, then they, who were in the Martial Dao realm, would go up. The reason why so many Martial Dao realm cultivators followed them was to ensure that the students would not be attacked by spirit beasts. On the way, Qin Yun came into contact with Xiaoyang Long's eyes that were filled with killing intent. It made him feel extremely disgusted. Xiaoyang Long was not a threat to Qin Yun because he could not attack directly. On the other hand, the students at the 8th level martial body realm would have the chance to attack. This was also something that Qin Yun was more worried about. Chapter 225. Armored Scorpion. After traveling for a day, Qin Yun finally saw Blue Spirit Star Palace again. The Star Palace flickered with a blue radiance under the blazing sun. The entire Star Palace seemed to be covered by a faint blue barrier. The area within 100 miles of the Star Palace was barren and barren. Many tall mountains were destroyed, and boulders were everywhere. In the Cloud Dragon Mountain Range, Blue Spirit Star Palace could easily become the target of magical beasts. Fortunately, the defense was extremely strong. The magical beasts were unable to break through the Star Palace's barrier. The powerful magical beasts that approached the Star Palace were also killed. Currently, most of the magical beasts outside Blue Spirit Star Palace were at the 8th and 7th rank. Occasionally, there would be some Class 9 magical beasts. The magical beasts roamed the desolate mountains outside Blue Spirit Star Palace, waiting for an opportunity to ambush the disciples. Over the past few days, a few disciples had been killed by demonic beasts. The Blue Spirit Star Palace was the same as the other martial academies. In order to ensure that the disciples had sufficient strength to leave, they had to pass a strict examination and obtain a pass. The barren mountains around Blue Spirit Star Palace had a large number of magical beasts wandering around. As a result, it was chosen by the Heaven's Pride Academy as the place for the first trial. Dozens of martial Dao realm cultivators led 200 students to the entrance of Blue Spirit Star Palace. Outside the gate of the Star Palace, there was the smell of rotting corpses. The ground was littered with the mangled flesh of many magical beasts, as well as large craters left behind from the battle. There's a high chance that you'll lose your life in this trial. You better think this through. Even if you get first place, you won't get any prizes, so it's best to act within your means and run if you can. Dean Bai said, "If you can't beat them, as long as you run to the gate of the Star Palace, the magical beasts won't dare to approach. If there's no prize, then there won't be any motivation for the trial," a student said in disappointment. Their trial this time was to obtain fresh magical beast cores, and then use the profound bead to absorb the energy from the fresh cores. The team that absorbed the most energy from the fresh cores will be number 1. There are no prizes, but there are Xian points. The team that obtains first place will each receive 100 million Xian points. Dean Bai said, 100 million Xian points. To many students, this was considered a lot. Originally, Everyone was somewhat disappointed. Now that they heard the reward of 100 million Shin points, they were filled with fighting spirit. Dean, if there's a conflict between teams, are they allowed to fight? A student asked. This kind of conflict is inevitable and is allowed. If there are any deaths or injuries, it will be a grudge between the two of you. We will not be responsible, Guo Cheng said. He was the vice principal of the Tianxin Martial School, so he also participated in the rules. When he said that, Qin Yun's heart skipped a beat as he glanced at Xiao Yanglong. The corner of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. He could foresee that Sun Jinhao's team, which was at the 8th level martial body realm, would most likely attack them. It's morning now. You must return here before it gets dark. Dean Bai said, it's about time. You should set off now and make the best use of your time to kill more magical beasts. The 50 squads immediately spread out and ran in all directions, entering the Bear Mountains. At this moment, the door to Blue Spirit Star Palace opened and the instructors entered. After entering the gate, they saw a huge square. There were 4 huge crystal walls around the square that were more than 10 meters tall. An image appeared on the crystal wall. One could see many magical beasts hibernating in the crevices of the barren mountains or under the crevices of the boulders, waiting for their prey. There were also many blue-robed disciples in the plaza who were looking at the huge crystal wall. Next, they would be able to personally witness the battle between the various teams of the Heaven's Pride Academy and the magical beasts. Lan Fengjin and the other instructors did not know, so when they entered, they were extremely shocked, especially Xiao Yanglong. His expression turned somewhat ugly. This was because if Sun Jinhao and company attacked Qin Yun and company, it was very likely that they would be seen clearly by the people here. This is something constructed from spatial spirit marks, right? They placed many eyes refined from spatial spirit inscriptions in various parts of the barren mountain outside, and then teleported what they saw here. Lan Fengjin walked to Yang Shiyu's side and looked at the spirit marks on the crystal wall with great interest. Senior sister, how is the overall strength of the Heaven's Pride Academy? Xiao Yuelan walked over. She was dressed in a blue suit and her entire body was drenched in sweat. It was as if she had just experienced an intense battle. I'm a teacher, and your little husband is my student, Lan Fengjin said with a low laugh. Xiao Yuelan and Yang Shi were slightly alarmed. Then, they looked at the crystal wall with some anticipation, hoping to see Qin Yun's figure. They did not know that Qin Yun and Lan Fengjin already knew each other. Otherwise, they would have definitely asked about Qin Yun's situation. The Eastern Palace's elder Shui Yihui and Ho Xingfeng walked over. Xiao Wufeng was also beside them. It was unknown how they knew each other. More and more people came to the plaza. They already knew about the matters of the Heaven's Pride Academy, and now they wanted to see the strength of the disciples of the Heaven's Pride Academy. Many of the new disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace came from the 3 Xian level martial academies. They also wanted to see the level of the outstanding students of the 3 academies. Qin Yun and company had no idea that there would be many people watching their battle with the magical beasts. They could even hear their voices. Qin Yun had the skill to track and discover magical beasts, so their team was the first to find traces of the magical beasts. This was a very flat wasteland, and there were no huge rocks nearby. Therefore, no matter how one looked at it, it was impossible for a magical beast to hide. However, Qin Yun could sense the aura of a magical beast. Brother Yun, what kind of magical beast is this? Hu Zhong asked in a low voice. He took out his staff and looked around. Brother Yun, it doesn't look like there are magical beasts here. Are you sure? Murong Darren said, but he still took out his weapon. Qin Yun said solemnly, there's no mistake. There really is the aura of a magical beast here. You must be careful. From the very beginning, Shuezai had taken out her pair of black sickles and entered a state of vigilance. Although she did not sense any magical beasts, she trusted her captain very much. In the plaza of Blue Spirit Star Palace, there was a crystal wall that showed the image of Qin Yun and company. The people in the plaza were also wondering where the magical beasts were. This was because there was a spatial eye here, which meant that there were magical beasts. Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, Qin Yun suddenly moved and hurriedly pushed Murong Darren away. Murong Darren was sent flying into the distance. At the same time, a very thin black shadow flew over like a sword. "Disperse!" Qin Yun shouted. "The magical beasts are hiding on the ground. There are a total of 2 of them." When Huizhong and Shui Zai heard this, they hurriedly dispersed. They also saw what was flying towards them. It was a hook the size of a fist. It was the tail hook of a poisonous scorpion. With such a big tail hook, one could imagine how big the scorpion was. With a crashing sound, a large object suddenly emerged from the ground. It was indeed a scorpion. Its body was more than 3 meters long, and its tail was also 3 to 4 meters long. The scariest thing was that the hook on the tail could fly very far. It was as if it was connected to a chain and could fly very quickly for dozens of meters. Shui Zai's sickles could also fly out. It was quite similar. There were 2 large black scorpions. They drilled out from the ground and attacked Murong Darren and Huizhong. "Brother Yin, how shall we fight?" Murong Darren shouted. He waved his fan and released a few streams of Vajra, inner strength. It landed on the scorpion's body, but it did not have much effect. The scorpion's body was covered in thick black armor. Its defense was very strong, and it could withstand a very strong inner strength. Qin Yun said, "It looks like only close combat can cause damage to the scorpion. However, close combat is too dangerous. The poison of the scorpion is very terrifying, and its tail hook is also very strange. It's not easy to deal with." The 2 scorpions were also running very fast as they chased after Huizhong and Murong Darren. "Captain, I can fight in close combat. Why don't I give it a try?" Huizhong said. "No, the scorpion's tail hook is very agile. You're big, so it won't be easy for you to dodge." Qin Yun controlled his saber and slashed at the tail hook of a scorpion. Zai Murong attacked the scorpion's tail hook. "Don't let the poison hook come out. I'll give it a try." Just now, Qin Yun had controlled his saber to fly out. When he slashed at the tail hook, it was unable to move. Otherwise, the tail hook would have shot out from time to time. "Old Hua, prepare to attack the scorpion chasing you," Qin Yun shouted. At that moment, Murong Darren was in the distance. He was attacking the scorpion that was chasing after Huizhong. All right. After Huizhong was ready, he saw Qin Yun fly over. Using his spirit essence saber, he executed the 6-style Wind Slayer at the scorpion's tail. The moment the 6-style Wind Slayer was unleashed, saber shadows appeared and the saber energy surged, enveloping the scorpion. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The treasured saber slashed down. The saber light was cold as it struck the scorpion's tail, causing sparks to fly out. The black armor on the scorpion's body was as tough as steel. However, it was still sliced apart by Qin Yun's 6-style Wind Slayer. Huizhong also rushed over. He brandished his long rod, and the aura of a mad bull erupted from his body. He roared as he brandished his long rod and violently struck the scorpion's head. Bang, 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 bang. Huizhong executed a set of rod techniques. He executed more than a dozen moves in a row, and each move was extremely powerful, causing the scorpion to sink into the ground. Shui Zai and Murong Darren were dealing with another scorpion. The scorpion was about to throw out its hook, but it didn't expect that just as it was thrown out, it would be cut off by Shui Zai's sickle. The poisonous hook was gone, and Shui Zai also attacked boldly. Her sickle looked rough, but it was extremely sharp. After throwing it out, it easily cut off the scorpion's feet as if it was harvesting straw. The scorpion had no feet and could only lie on the ground, struggling wildly as it waved its tail without a poisonous hook. When Qin Yun and Huizhong rushed over, they gave the scorpion a painful beating. The scorpion was smashed into pieces, and it didn't take long for it to become motionless. "I killed it and took the magical beast core," Qin Yun said with a smile as he heaved a sigh of relief. It was indeed very dangerous just now. Murong Darren had almost died. The people in the Star Palace Plaza let out waves of exclamations. "That's an armored scorpion. a Class 8 magical beast. It was actually killed by an 8th level martial body and 3 7th level martial body youths in such a short period of time. Qin Yun's strength is indeed well-deserved. Chapter 226. Plunder in Blue Spirit Star Palace. There were also many youths at the 8th or 7th level of the martial body realm. When they saw Qin Yun and company kill the scorpion, they all sighed. Qin Yun and company took out the magic core from the scorpion's body and took out the demon core Xian bead. Absorbing the energy of 2 Class 8 magic cores was very fast. It only took a moment for it to be completed. 2 magical beasts have just died. The nearby magical beasts will definitely be able to smell the scent of death. They might be coming soon. Qin Yun said, "We have to leave quickly." Shuezai said coldly, "It's too late. The horde of beasts has already arrived. Run or fight." As expected, the horde of beasts arrived very quickly. Furthermore, there were many of them. There were more than 30 of them, and they were all brown wolves. The thorn wolf was not big and was considered small among magical beasts. It was only 2 meters long and 1 meter tall. However, the dense spikes on its body were extremely terrifying. When the thorn wolf came over, it did not make a sound. Furthermore, its footsteps were very light. When it saw a human, it quickly pounced over. The leader is a Class 8 magical beast, and the others are Class 7. We can deal with it. As Qin Yun spoke, he rushed forward with the giant king spirit hammer in his left hand. He groaned. The sleeve on his left arm suddenly burst open, revealing his sturdy muscles. The heavenly lion totem tattoo on it also appeared, emitting a purple light. Flames and lightning continuously flowed out from the skin of his arm. The most terrifying thing was that the giant king spirit hammer had suddenly become very large. In Blue Spirit Star Palace, Guo Cheng of the Tianxian Martial School shouted in shock. Giant soul transformation. Qin Yun's giant king spirit hammer had the giant spirit martial spirit within it. How did he obtain it? The true giant king spirit hammer needs to be fused with the giant spirit martial spirit in order to suddenly become huge. The power of the giant king hammer will also be even more terrifying. This could be considered a top-grade spirit weapon. Lan Fengjin said with a frown. She had seen Qin Yun's giant king spirit hammer before, but she did not discover the giant spirit martial spirit within it. When the people in the plaza heard Guo Cheng's words, they burst into an uproar. Qin Yun, a 7th level martial body cultivator, possessed a top-grade spirit artifact. This was something that could only be looked up to. One had to know that many martial Dao realm cultivators did not have a top-grade spirit artifact. Generally speaking, a high-grade spirit artifact was already very good. Qin Yun, who was in battle, had always believed that his giant king spirit hammer was at most a high-grade spirit artifact. Get ready. With a low growl, Qin Yun raised the gigantic giant king spirit hammer and hammered it at the ground. He executed the tsunami technique and released the power of a violent tsunami, striking out through the violent spirit marks within the king hammer. The tsunami technique was a profound level upper-grade martial art. It was one of the strongest martial arts below Earth-level martial arts. Qin Yun's perception of martial arts was extremely high. He had long cultivated the tsunami technique to the large success stage, allowing him to produce 7 shock waves. The tsunami technique turned the inner strength into ferocious waves. The waves rippled outwards, causing the incoming wolves to retreat. Many of the spikes on the bodies of the wolves were broken. After being attacked by the tsunami art, the spiky wolf no longer had the same ferocity as before. Furthermore, the energy in his body had also been shaken to the point of being extremely chaotic. For a moment, he was unable to use his strongest power. Go! Qin Yun shouted. Huazhong and Shuezai had already rushed forward. Huazhong's long rod smashed the head of a spiky wolf. Shuezai's pair of sickles flew out. When she retracted them, 2 spiky wolf heads rolled to the ground. In the distance, Murong Darren stared at the spiky wolves that were recovering their strength. As long as they approached Qin Yun and company, He would use his inner strength to break their limbs from afar. The gigantic hammer in Qin Yun's hand was also extremely terrifying. None of the spiky wolves that were struck were able to survive. They were all beaten to death. It had to be said that Xue Zai, a martial artist at the 8th level martial body realm, was extremely outstanding. The one who killed the most was her. In a very short period of time, she had killed half of the spiky wolves. In just a short moment, the group of spiky wolves that had ambushed them had been completely killed. The disciples who watched them kill the pack of spiky wolves let out waves of sighs. Even some of the instructors had thought that Qin Yun and company were going to escape. They never expected that in the blink of an eye, most of the spiky wolves would die. With Brother Yun here, it's always so smooth. Xia Wufeng smiled. He had previously killed evil beasts with Qin Yun, and it had been so easy. It seems like their efficiency is much higher than that of a team with 4 8th level martial body realm cultivators. Ho Xingfeng said with a smile. Xiao Yanglong's expression was somewhat unsightly because his team had yet to appear. This meant that he had yet to find any magical beasts. On the crystal walls around the plaza, images of other teams fighting against magical beasts gradually appeared. Some of the teams were also very outstanding, while others were relatively ordinary. Not only were they unable to kill the magical beasts, they were also injured and had to flee. Many teams had found magical beasts one after another. As for Qin Yun and company, they had disappeared from the crystal wall. They would only appear again when they were fighting the magical beasts. More than an hour later, Qin Yun and company once again appeared on the crystal wall of Blue Spirit Star Palace's plaza. This time, they were facing a gigantic black tiger. The tiger's entire body was stiff and thick. It had a luster that made it look like black metal. 4 sharp sword-like teeth were revealed from the top and bottom of the tiger's mouth. Its eyes shone with a deep green light, and when it roared, the patterns on its body flickered with a red light. This is a Class 9 magical beast, Black Radiant Tiger. Yang Shiyu shouted softly, feeling somewhat worried. When the disciples in the plaza saw the Black Radiant Tiger, they all cried out in fear. That was because not long ago, a 9th level martial body disciple had been eaten by a Black Radiant Tiger. This Black Radiant Tiger was a shadow in the hearts of many disciples. Qin Yun and company knew that the giant tiger in front of them was a Class 9 magical beast, but they were confident that they could kill it. The moment the Black Radiant Tiger appeared, it pounced to Xue Zai first because her aura was the strongest. Second, Brother Murong, Qin Yun shouted. Murong Darren hurriedly struck out with a ball of light condensed from his inner strength, sending the Black Radiant Tiger flying. Following that, Qin Yun controlled his saber to slash at the Black Radiant Tiger's head. Clang! The saber slashed down and produced a crisp sound. It did not cut into the tiger's head. Very sturdy, Qin Yun hurriedly shouted, "Everyone retreat. Stay away from the Black Radiant Tiger." The purple eyes of Xue Zai, who was closest to the Black Radiant Tiger, flickered. The 2 sickles in her hands were enveloped by a purple glow. The blades suddenly flew out and hooked onto the front limbs of the Black Radiant Tiger. She let out a delicate shout and dragged the scythe back. She wanted to cut off the tiger's front limbs, but the tiger's thick skin was extremely hard and could not be cut off. "Zai, be careful." When Qin Yun saw the Black Radiant Tiger pouncing over with a roar, he hurriedly shouted and used the flaming cloud steps to fly over. "It's up to you." Xue Zai shouted softly as the blade of the sickle flashed with a purple light, overflowing with a threatening aura. Sizzle. The 2 sickles that were hooked onto the tiger's front limbs were finally retracted. At the same time, they also hooked off the tiger's front limbs. The Black Radiant Tiger that was flying over suddenly fell to the ground with its front limbs broken. It let out a painful roar and opened its mouth to bite Xue Zai. In the distance, Murong Darren sent out a ball of inner strength and poured it into the tiger's mouth. Once again, the tiger was sent flying. In order to cut off the tiger's front limbs, Xue Zai had used a lot of strength and consumed a lot of energy. Lan Fengjin heaved a sigh of relief. The heavens should be able to successfully take down the Black Radiant Tiger. This is a Class 9 magical beast, and it was actually beaten to such a sorry state by them. I really wonder if this is a Class 9 magical beast? The other disciples had the same thought, but they could tell that the speed of the black radiant tiger's pouncing and its various strengths were extremely difficult to deal with. Therefore, when they saw the front limbs of the black radiant tiger being cut off, they all cried out in disbelief. They all marveled at Shue's Zai's strange purple energy. Third brother Hua, second brother Morong, protect Zai. Leave the rest to me. Qin Yun took out the giant king spirit hammer, and in the blink of an eye, he jumped onto the head of the black radiant tiger. After the giant spirit martial spirit within the giant king spirit hammer was activated, the hammer instantly became huge. Boom! Qin Yun's hammer descended as purple flames exploded out, emitting the sound of rumbling thunder. This was the first move of the forging dragon, Thunderclap. The black radiant tiger let out a deep roar as a crack appeared on its head. Immediately after, Qin Yun struck out a second time. The second move of the forging dragon, Roar. The rumbling sound of thunder seemed to shake the wind and clouds, setting off a gust of wind. When a hammerhead fell, the roar of thunder shook the clouds. The black radiant tiger's head was smashed into pieces by the hammer strike, causing its entire head to explode. With just 2 strikes, the black radiant tiger had been completely annihilated. This terrifying power caused many disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace to be dumbfounded. What a terrifying hammer technique. It should be a Xian-level martial art. He has cultivated it to the large success stage. Lan Fengjin was also astonished. She realized that her understanding of Qin Yun was still too little. Yang Shiyu understood this hammer technique the best and knew how terrifying the 6th-style forging dragon was. Currently, Qin Yun had only cultivated it to the large success stage. If he were to reach the great perfection stage, its power would be even more terrifying. Qin Yun took out the black radiant tiger's magical beast core. Just as he was about to absorb it with the Xian bead, a few figures suddenly appeared. It was Sun Jinhao and 3 youths. They were all at the 8th level martial body realm. Qin Yun hurriedly rushed to Shui Zai's side to protect her. Murong Darren and Hua Zhong also stood in front with their weapons in hand. Most likely, Sun Jinhao and company had come here to kill and plunder. In the plaza of Blue Spirit Star Palace, when Xiao Yang Long saw this scene, he secretly gritted his teeth. He wished that he could leave Blue Spirit Star Palace right now and stop Sun Jinhao. Lan Fengjin looked coldly at Xiao Yang Long and asked, "That's your student. He actually wants to steal someone else's things. How shameless." Qin Yun had beaten up Sun Jinhao before. This is only a grudge between them. It has nothing to do with me. Even if Sun Jinhao wanted to snatch Qin Yun and company, it was not taught by me. It was all their own decision. Xiao Yang Long hurriedly distanced himself from the matter. With so many people watching, if Sun Jinhao really attacked Qin Yun and company, Xiao Yang Long would not be able to protect them. Yang Shiyu looked at Shui Yihui, who was not far away, and asked somewhat anxiously, "Elder Shui, aren't you going out to stop him?" Shui Yihui shook his head and said, "It's not that we don't want to go out, but the door is tightly shut. It will take time to open it, and it's already too late. There are so many magical beasts outside. Every time we open the door, we need the elders of the 4 palaces to work together." Chapter 227. Fight to the death. An elder from the Blue Spirit West Palace sneered and said, "This kind of battle is unavoidable. Survival and competition are just that cruel. This is also a form of training for them. If Qin Yun and company could even kill a Class 9 magical beast, they could naturally deal with these 4 8th level martial body students. So, there's no need to open the door. They can handle it." The Blue Spirit West Palace had a grudge with Qin Yun, and it was a huge one at that. At this critical juncture, they would naturally not help Qin Yun. Lan Fengjin was infuriated as she hurriedly charged at Xiao Yang Long. Fortunately, a few elders pulled her away. When Sun Jinhao and company realized that it was Qin Yun, they hurriedly surrounded them. Qin Yun's voice carried a trace of anger as he said coldly, Sun Jinhao, what are you doing here? Shuezai had expended a lot of energy just now and would not be able to recover that quickly. Their team was equivalent to having one less person. Facing Sun Jinhao's team, which were all at the 8th level martial body realm, they had no chance of winning. What? Of course, it's to let you understand the cruelty of the competition. You just killed a Class 9 magical beast, right? It's quite powerful, but in front of us, you are just ants. Sun Jinhao's eyes were filled with viciousness. Everyone could see his thick, killing intent. Sun Jinhao had been slapped twice by Qin Yun in front of many people, causing him to lose all face. This was a great humiliation to him. Every time he thought of this matter, a strong sense of hatred surged into his heart. Qin Yun, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death today. Don't expect anyone to come and save you. Even if you die in the wilderness, you will be killed by magical beasts. Sun Jinhao laughed maniacally. A red-clothed youth at the 8th level martial body realm suddenly made his move. The long saber in his hand slashed at Huizhong. Huizhong was infuriated. He waved his long rod and swept it at a black-clothed youth. The long rod contained a huge amount of power as it suddenly swept out, creating a storm that broke the young man's saber. This terrifying power shocked many people. It was actually able to resist the inner force of the 8th level martial body realm. Mu Rongjun was also attacked. He waved his fan and sent out a few strange red balls of air. They attached themselves to the young man's body before igniting into flames. Sun Jinhao was stunned. He never expected that the 7th level martial body cultivators would have such terrifying strength. However, he was not worried at all because their strength could crush each other. Just as Qin Yun took out a talisman, Sun Jinhao's fists overflowed with 2 platinum-colored flames, transforming into 2 tiger heads. He used the Vudra martial spirit's inner force. Sun Jinhao's fists transformed into a platinum tiger that let out a terrifying roar. The tyrannical aura transformed into astral winds that gushed out. All of you be careful. Don't hurt Shuezai. Otherwise, we won't have any fun tonight, huh? Sun Jinhao laughed lewdly. When Qin Yun saw this, he in of sun, Qi, yin of the god, he the god, the star, the Hua Yun, the god. Shuezai, who was resting on the ground, was also so angry that her face turned red. Her purple eyes seemed to be about to spit out purple flames. Chun of Qin Yun threw out the body, securing talisman in his hand. A transparent wave of air exploded out and enveloped Sun Jinhao. Sun Jinhao, who was running wildly, suddenly froze. It was as if he was being sucked in by the earth, unable to move. Following that, Qin Yun threw out another fire talisman that enveloped Sun Jinhao. It's the body securing talisman. Shui Yihui shouted in shock. How does he know this kind of spirit inscription? This is a special spirit inscription. That Sun Jinhao is dead for sure. It was actually an extremely rare body securing talisman. It caused an uproar among the people in the plaza. Xiao Yanglong's expression turned even uglier. At the same time, Huizhong and Mu Rongjun threw out the body securing talisman to stop their enemies. Everyone stared at the crystal wall and watched the intense battle inside. Everyone could almost see the result. After Qin Yun threw out the fire talisman, he charged into the flames and used the Qi explosion technique. He punched Sun Jinhao's head with great force, causing him to lose consciousness. Then, he used a secret technique to extract the platinum fire tiger martial spirit. Sun Jinhao let out a mournful scream. Everyone could only see the flames and had no idea what was happening inside. After the flames disappeared, Qin Yun had already succeeded. He took out his treasured saber and executed the 6-style Wind Slayer. When he slashed down, he used an intense purple flame. With a few swoosh, 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 the 6-style Wind Slayer slashed out consecutively. It contained purple flames, and at the same time sliced Sun Jinhao into 8 pieces. It also burned his corpse to ashes. After Qin Yin killed Sun Jinhao, he threw out another body, securing talisman, and stopped the black-clothed man who was charging at Xuezai. When a man was stopped, Xuezai hurriedly threw out her 2 sickles. Several saber shadows flashed, and countless bloody wounds appeared on the black-clothed man's body. Qin Yin threw a fire talisman and burned the black-clothed youth to ashes. On Mu Rongjun and Huozhong's side, their battle had also ended. The 2 youths at the 8th level martial body realm had died miserably. For young martial artists at the 8th level martial body realm were actually unable to withstand a single blow. They were killed by 3 martial artists at the 7th level martial body realm. They died even faster than a Class 8 magical beast. The hundreds of disciples and dozens of martial Dao realm cultivators in the plaza couldn't help but take a deep breath. Lan Fengjin, who was originally very angry, also calmed down. Looking at the flames burning on the crystal wall, she blamed herself for not being calm enough and forgetting that Qin Yun had an extremely powerful body securing talisman. Yang Shiyu glanced at Xiao Yuelan and saw a proud smile on her face. It was as if she was saying, "My man is that powerful." A few young 8th level martial artists died just like that. Sigh, what a pity. Qin Yun and company are really ruthless. An elder from the Blue Spirit West Palace said with great regret. Lan Fengjin said with a sneer, "If Qin Yun and company do not act ruthlessly, they will be the ones to die. This is all your Blue Spirit West Palace's fault. If you open the door and let me out, you might be able to stop me. Don't pretend here." The elders of the Blue Spirit West Palace shut their mouths. After Qin Yun and company killed Sun Jinhao and company, they rested on the spot to recover. Lan Fengjin was no longer that worried. This was because Qin Yun and company still had quite a few body-securing talismans on them. However, at that moment, someone suddenly shouted, "Look, a few people have appeared." They seem to be ambushing Qin Yun and company as well. When Shui Yihui saw those people, he said angrily, "Those are people from our Blue Spirit Star Palace, and there are even a few old martial artists. From their attire, they should be from the Western Palace." Ho Xingfeng said coldly, "I've seen them before. They are indeed from the Western Palace. They are at the 9th level martial body realm, and are in charge of patrolling outside. What are they doing there?" "What?" Although no one answered, everyone knew that these few elders from the Western Palace were definitely there to deal with Qin Yun and company. They might have been watching from the vicinity just now. Xiao Yanglong had a grudge with Qin Yun, and it was a very deep one at that. He was also the chief disciple of the Blue Spirit West Palace, and a young martial Dao realm cultivator. He definitely had his own power in the Western Palace. It was very likely that these old martial artists at the 9th level martial body realm were sent by Xiao Yanglong. On one hand, they could help Sun Jinhao and company kill the magical beast, and on the other hand, they could deal with Qin Yun and company. Xiao Yanglong's expression turned even gloomier. Right now, he could only remain silent. However, in his heart, he was cursing the planner of this trial. He actually didn't tell him that the process of the students capturing the beast would be transmitted here. Qin Yun and company did not know that there were so many people watching the battle. Therefore, when they attacked, they would not leave any survivors and would even remove the traces afterwards. They never expected that the people who came to deal with them were not only students, but also martial artists from the Blue Spirit West Palace. "Are you from Blue Spirit Star Palace? Did you see our battle just now?" Qin Yun looked at a blue-robed elder and asked. "Indeed, we have been following Sun Jinhao and company to help them kill the magical beasts. Originally, we thought that they would be able to easily annihilate you, but we never expected that you would have a body-securing talisman, and your strength is not bad either." The blue-robed elder sneered and took out a long saber as he spoke. "Did Xiao Yanglong arrange for you to come? That's cheating." Mu Rongjun spat. The old man laughed out loud and said, "You guys ask too many questions. Do you know that you don't have long to live?" Qin Yun suddenly threw out a body-securing talisman. However, the 4 elders were not immobilized by it. "Ha! That body-securing talisman of yours is useless against us. We are at the 9th level martial body realm and are preparing to step into the martial Tao realm. Furthermore, the blue robes on our bodies can withstand a certain amount of power. The old man laughed proudly. All right, I'll send you on your way now. This way, we'll have an explanation when we return. Captain, go ahead. Don't worry about me. Shui's eyes suddenly jumped up from the ground and rushed forward. Mu Rongjun and Hua Zhong also attacked with all their might. Brother Yin, leave, Hua Zhong shouted angrily. Although you're the captain, you're the youngest. Hurry up and leave. Mu Rongjun smiled faintly, as if he no longer planned on living. Qin Yin was taken aback. He gripped the giant king spirit hammer and spirit saber tightly, as his eyes could not help but moisten. He suddenly hated himself. Why was he so weak? If he was strong enough, such a situation would not have happened. At this moment, he could not make a decision. If he escaped, then Shui Zai, Mu Rongjun, and Hua Zhong would definitely die. If they didn't escape, the 4 of them would die here. Let's go all out. Qin Yin roared in his heart as a wave of energy burst out from his body as he charged forward. The 2 of you deal with Qin Yin. We'll take care of these 3 fellows. Pay attention, you must keep them alive. We can use these 3 fellows to force Qin Yin to hand over the spirit inscriptions. The leading old man said with a sinister smile. Although Qin Yin still had a high-grade body-securing talisman, he could only deal with 2 9th-level martial artists. Furthermore, he did not have the confidence to succeed. Right now, he could only use his strongest power to fight. Bang! Bang! The infuriated Qin Yin unleashed all sorts of martial arts to their limits. He struck out with terrifying energy, and the loud sound was transmitted to the plaza inside Blue Spirit Star Palace. Blue Spirit West Palace. Hurry up and open the door. When Lan Fengjin saw this, her eyes turned red as she roared. Chapter 228. Vajra Martial Spirit Qin Yun's team only had 1 person at the 8th level martial body realm. The other 3 were at the 7th level martial body realm. Facing 4 old martial artists at the 9th level martial body realm, they had no chance of winning. The disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace quietly looked at the huge crystal wall. They felt a sense of pity as they looked at Qin Yun and company, who were bleeding profusely. Qin Yun could have escaped, but for the sake of his friend, he chose to stay and fight a bloody battle. The old martial artist laughed sinisterly. Qin Yun and company's cries of pain were constantly transmitted over, causing everyone's hearts to skip a beat. Xiao Wufeng's entire body trembled as he watched. He released a domineering, killing intent that enveloped Xiao Yanglong. It was as though once Hua Zhong, Murong Darren, and Qin Yin died, he would attack Xiao Yanglong without a care in the world. Yang Shiyu, who had stepped into the martial Dao realm, had an ice-cold expression and was filled with seriousness. When she saw Qin Yun being ravaged by a few old martial artists, her heart secretly ached. She had also decided that if Qin Yun really died, she would definitely not let Xiao Yanglong off. Lan Fengjin was already at the entrance. It would take some time to open the door. If she really could not save her students, she would definitely make a move against Xiao Yanglong. Xiao Yanglong stood on the spot, as he was enveloped by several terrifying killing intent, causing him to be unable to move. His entire body was covered in cold sweat. Although there was no conclusive evidence, everyone knew that this matter was definitely related to him. The battle stopped. Qin Yin was already covered in wounds. He was lying on a patch of rubble, unable to open his eyes. He was the one with the most serious injuries. Hua Zhong and the other 2 were not seriously injured, but they were unable to retaliate. Qin Yin, you sure are loyal. You could have run, but you didn't. Do you regret it now? Ha! An old man grabbed Shui Zai and placed her in front of Qin Yun. He said with a sneer, I'll give you some time to consider whether or not you want to hand over the spirit inscriptions. If you don't want to, then I can only do this girl in front of you. We'll take turns to take care of her. The blue-robed martial artists laughed evilly. In the distance, The disciples and elders of Blue Spirit Star Palace were filled with shame and indignation. Those four old martial artists had already completely lost face for Blue Spirit Star Palace. They actually wanted to violate an injured woman like this. Western Palace, all of you have produced such scum. The reason why our Blue Spirit Star Palace has declined is not without reason. Lan Fengjin was thoroughly enraged. She was a woman. Naturally, she couldn't stand others insulting women like this. Moreover, it was a few powerful old martial artists. All the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace fell into silence. This was because there were many martial Dao realm instructors in the plaza who were not from Blue Spirit Star Palace. Du Gui sneered and said, "Your Blue Spirit Star Palace has truly lost all face. You actually dared to call yourself a martial arts sacred land." Qin Yun was already in a semi-conscious state. Although he knew that they were going to attack Shui Zai, he was heavily injured and exhausted. He was unable to stop them. He could not even speak. Shui Zai suddenly cried out in pain as her entire body swelled up. Hua! An uproar broke out in the plaza within the Star Palace. She's going to self-destruct. Doesn't she want to implicate Qin Yun? What an admirable woman. Those old hooligans are too despicable. Even if the gate opens now, it's already too late to rush over. What a pity such a young genius girl is going to die like this. Everyone was discussing with great regret. The semi-conscious Qin Yun could feel the energy in Shui Zai's body expanding. It was obvious that she was going to self-destruct. Quick, stop her. An old man also noticed it and exclaimed in shock. Then, he hurriedly channeled his inner force into Shui Zai's body to prevent her from self-destructing. Qin Yun was seriously injured. The light inscription equipment he was wearing was also secretly healing him. After Shui Zai was stopped, she was unable to self-destruct. If those elders were unable to obtain the spirit inscriptions from Qin Yun, they would definitely taint Shui Zai. This was something that many people did not want to see. Qin Yun closed his eyes tightly as he communicated with the three martial spirits in his body. He yearned for powerful strength and could only place his hopes on the breakthrough of his martial spirit. If his martial spirit could obtain his recognition and sublimate itself into the Vajram martial spirit, he would be able to step into the 8th level martial body realm. Unknowingly, Qin Yun seemed to sense three consciousnesses. They were the consciousnesses of his martial spirit. The vibration martial spirit, the nether sun martial spirit, and the thunder fire martial spirit were the three martial spirits on his body. They all gave him an extremely uneasy feeling. Martial spirits had their own thoughts, and they understood their master very well. Now that they had such uneasy feelings, it was obvious that Qin Yun could not give them much sense of security. Why? I was the one who made you stronger in a short period of time. Do you still not approve of me? Do you know how much pain I have endured to protect you and make you stronger? You are the source of my power. I cherish you more than anyone else, but you don't trust me. From the emotions transmitted by his martial spirit, Qin Yun could sense their extreme distrust. He was immediately infuriated as he shouted angrily in his heart, "Fine, since you don't trust me, then what's the use of you?" Back then, Qin Yun, only had one spirit vein, but I still managed to survive. I don't have a martial spirit, but I can still survive and become an expert. With this thought in his mind, the three martial spirits became even more uneasy as they began to tremble. Since you are unwilling to break through, then what use do I have for you? If you haven't seen how arduous my cultivation has been, then I can only say goodbye to you. Qin Yun had learned the art of soul refining, and there was also a method to give up his martial spirit. When the three martial spirits sensed Qin Yun's strong conviction to give up his martial spirit, they suddenly burst out with a holy golden light. Just as Qin Yun was about to circulate the soul-refining art and give up on his martial spirit, he never expected that the three martial spirits would evolve into the Vajram martial spirit. At the instant the martial spirit evolved, the inner strength of the three elemental energies also increased. Their inner strength became extremely strong. The mysterious yellow meridian in his body also erupted with a powerful healing power. Combined with the light inscription equipment, his injuries healed extremely quickly. Qinyan, have you thought it through? An old man came over and kicked Qinyan twice as he asked coldly. Qinyan closed his eyes and sensed the saber in the distance. Then, he controlled the saber to fly over. What is it? The few elders noticed movement and turned their heads to look. They realized that it was a saber flying over. Qinyan raised the heavenly lion's arm. With a whoosh, a purplish-gold bolt of fire and lightning surged out from his arm, connecting with the flying saber. The saber immediately flashed with a purplish-gold light. Wrapped in purplish-gold lightning, it flew towards the two elders. It's the aura of the Vajram martial spirit. There's a Vajram martial spirit wrapped around the saber. What's going on? An old man suddenly thought of something when he saw Qinyan raise his arm. Quickly knock him out. An old man in the distance shouted. This kid has cultivated the Vajra martial spirit. Just as the old man beside Qinyan was about to make a move, the saber suddenly transformed into a bolt of purplish-gold lightning and pierced through the old man's chest. Then, it flew towards the old man beside him and beheaded him. Qinyan suddenly jumped up and threw a high-grade body, securing talisman, at the two stunned elders in the distance. The two elders had just taken a dozen meters when they were stopped by the body, securing talisman. Under the control of Qinyan's powerful mental strength, the saber that was attached to the purple-gold thunder flame martial spirit struck out like a bolt of lightning. In the blink of an eye, it pierced through the head of an old man. The saber was attached to the purple-gold thunder flame martial spirit. Under the control of Qinyan's imperial spirit art, it was like a bolt of lightning. Not only was it fast, its power was also extremely terrifying. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the saber slashed down on the last old man's body, shattering him into pieces. Its power was so overbearing that it was shocking. Qinyan stood up and panted heavily. He wiped the blood off his body, and the cracks on his skin rapidly healed. He hurriedly helped Shuezai up. Not far away, Murong Darren and Hojong were also able to slowly crawl up. Their faces were filled with shock. Qinyan had actually killed 4 elders at the 9th level martial body realm by himself. Furthermore, it was in just a few short moments. In the plaza of Blue Spirit Star Palace, everyone was dumbstruck. They stared at the crystal wall, speechless, especially those in the martial Dao realm. They all looked as if they had seen a ghost. He has broken through to the 8th level martial body realm. He has just broken through, and he can already attach the Vajram martial spirit to his weapon. Ho Xingfeng took a deep breath and exclaimed, Purple gold thunder flame martial spirit. Didn't he only have the purple gold fire martial spirit? And that seems to be on the arm of the heavenly lion. There's only one possibility. Back then, he moved the Dantian's martial spirit to his arm, and the heavenly lion's arm awakened the thunder martial spirit. The arm of the heavenly lion, which was considered a dead totem, actually possessed a thunder fire martial spirit. This caused an uproar. 8th level martial body, he's only 16 years old. Furthermore, he only used a little more than a year to advance from the 2nd level martial body to the 8th level martial body. This was the most shocking thing. Impossible. His heavenly lion arm is dead, and he doesn't have a totem soul. How did it suddenly awaken now? A 16-year-old 8th level martial body. An inscription master. He possesses the heavenly lion totem and has mastered a large number of inscriptions. This is simply a monster. The entire square of the Star Palace was in an uproar. Blue Spirit Star Palace's West Palace, Nangong Palace and Beigong Palace were filled with regret when they determined that Qinyan did not have a totem soul. If they could obtain such a genius, their overall strength would greatly increase. Lan Fongjin was at the door when she saw how Qinyan killed the few elders. While she was shocked, she also felt relieved. Far away from the plaza of Blue Spirit Star Palace, on a tall tower, the palace masters of the 4 palaces were all present. They had all witnessed the process of Qinyan's breakthrough. They were also moved and their faces were filled with surprise. The palace mistress of the Eastern Palace was a tall and thin old woman. She wore a wide blue robe with the word East written on the back of her robe. She sneered and said, "Master of the Western Palace, it's time for you to clean up your sect." If not for Qin Yun's sudden breakthrough, those four old beasts would have definitely done that. Chapter 229. The might of the forging dragon hammer. The words of the Western Palace master infuriated the old woman. Now that they're all dead, let's just forget about it. The palace master of the Western Palace smiled faintly. Your Eastern Palace should celebrate. Right now, only you have any hope of recruiting Qin Yun. If you take him in as a disciple of Blue Spirit Star Palace, there won't be so many things happening in the future. Qin Yun's talent was indeed something that the four palace masters coveted. Previously, Shui Yi Hui had invited Qin Yun to join, but he had been rejected. Therefore, they could only give up. It seems like someone ordered those four disciples to do it. Don't you plan on investigating it? The palace master of the Nangong Palace said with a smile. Who can order them around? Let's just forget about this matter. I'll go back and rest. After the palace master finished speaking, he left in a hurry. The other three palace masters naturally knew that he was avoiding this matter, because everyone knew that it was Xiao Yonglong who did it. Qin Yun and company were quietly recovering from their injuries. The one who recovered the fastest was not Qin Yun, but Shui Zai. It was unknown why she was able to recover so quickly. This caused many people to be puzzled. After she recovered, she went to patrol the area. Not long after, Qin Yun and company would more or less recover. Then they would leave this place full of energy. The four of them disappeared from the crystal wall once again. Not being able to see the four of them disappointed everyone. They could only hope that Qin Yun would appear the next time they fought magical beasts. Brother Yun, I really didn't expect you to suddenly break through. Mu Rongjun was still surprised. And your martial spirit is so powerful. Qin Yun smiled. There's nothing I can do about it. If I don't break through, we'll die. Shui Zai's purple eyes flashed as she said in a low voice, Captain, thank you. Otherwise, I might have lived a life worse than death. Since you call me Captain, I have to be responsible for you. There's no need to thank me. Qin Yun smiled casually. You guys plan to sacrifice yourselves to let me escape. I should be the one thanking you. Shui Zai nodded and revealed a faint smile. This beautiful smile disappeared in a flash, but it was caught by Qin Yun. All right, after I broke through, my mental strength has increased a bit. I discovered that at the place where I killed the black tiger, there was something that released spatial energy fluctuations. Qin Yun said with a frown. What could it be? A storage spirit artifact? Mu Rongjun said excitedly. Why don't we go back and take a look? No. That place has been through a great battle, and there are many remnant auras. Not only will it attract other magical beasts, it will also attract other teams. For safety's sake, it's best we don't go over. Although Qin Yun found it odd, he did not take it to heart. Shui Zai said, We have to hurry up and kill the magical beasts. We have been delayed for a lot of time. At night, they would have to return to the entrance of Blue Spirit Star Palace to gather. Right now, their Xian bead had not absorbed enough energy, so they did not know if they could guarantee first place. First place would be able to get 100 million Xian points. This was extremely worth it. Murong Darren said with a smile, Brother Yun is now at the 8th level martial body realm. If we join forces, even a Class 9 magical beast won't be a problem. As long as we find a magical beast, we can definitely kill it easily. As Qin Yun walked, he released his mental energy to investigate. Suddenly, he sensed the spatial fluctuations again. He whispered doubtfully, Strange, I can sense that spatial fluctuation. Furthermore, there are magical beasts over there. Murong Darren thought for a moment and said with a smile, Spatial fluctuations, it's a spatial spirit artifact. Other than storage, this kind of spirit artifact can also transmit sound and images. And in a place with magical beasts, there's such a thing. Could it be that someone is secretly observing us? It's extremely possible. Qin Yun's face was filled with shock as he said in a low voice, "Our battle from before might have been seen by someone. Really? It's over. I'm so handsome and confident. If others see me in such a sorry state, I won't have the face to see anyone in the future." Mu Rongjun wailed. Shuezai muttered, "If that's really the case, then it's really embarrassing. Forget it. Let's talk about it when we get back. What we need to do now is to kill more magical beasts and ensure that we can get first place. Each of us will get 100 million Shin points." Qin Yun quickened his pace and rushed towards the huge boulder that was dozens of meters tall. There were magical beasts hidden there. After they passed by, many black shadows suddenly appeared at the top of the boulder. It was a group of flying magical beasts with the head of an eagle and the body of an ox. "It's a flying magical beast." Mu Rongjun hurriedly waved the fan in his hand and released a tyrannical stream of air, causing the 5 swooping eagles to whistle repeatedly. The eagle was affected by the chaotic airflow, and its flight became very unstable. However, the Vajra inner strength that Mu Rongjun had unleashed was able to accurately hit the eagle in the chaotic airflow. "Do you want to fly up?" Shuezai asked as she looked at the sky over 100 meters above the ground. She and Huizhong could not attack from the ground, but they really wanted to contribute a portion of their strength. "No need. These magical beasts are good at flying. You guys will be in danger if you go up. We'll just attack from the ground. Leave it to me and second brother Moro." Qin Yun took out his spirit essence saber and released his thunder fire martial spirit. He injected it into the saber and then used the imperial spirit technique to control the saber to fly up. The large success stage of the imperial spirit technique was to attach a martial spirit to a spirit artifact. This would make the power of the spirit artifact even stronger. The spirit essence saber flew into the air, and a purplish gold bolt of lightning pulled on Qin Yun's arm. It did not completely leave Qin Yun's body. This way, the martial spirit within the saber would be able to constantly absorb the energy from the inner yuan. Mu Rongjun beat up the eagle until it scurried away. After Qin Yun's saber went up, he easily cut off the wings of an eagle. Bang! The eagle landed on the ground with a loud sound. Huizhong and Shuezai hurriedly went over and killed the eagle. The 5 eagles were all Class 8 magical beasts. After being slashed by Qin Yun's saber, they fell to the ground one by one. In just a moment, the 5 eagles landed on the ground. Huizhong and Shuezai took out their magic cores. Qin Yun took out the demon core Xian bead and absorbed the energy from the magic cores. Then, he hurriedly went to look for other magical beasts. A Class 8 eagle is a very difficult type of magical beast to deal with. Because it can fly in the air, it is very good at ambushing. I didn't expect it to be killed by them in an instant. An old instructor exclaimed as he looked at the crystal wall. Qin Yun has advanced to the 8th level martial body realm. Killing magical beasts is even faster. Look, they've encountered a Class 9 magical beast. It's a 6-winged mantis. It's this guy who killed quite a few 9th level martial artists. This is going to be troublesome. The 6-winged mantis is very scary, and its flying speed is extremely fast. Even a 9th level martial body team might not be able to take it down. Everyone could see a black armored mantis that was as tall as a human flying towards Qin Yun and company at high speed. It had a pair of terrifying scissors that could easily cut a person's body. Qin Yun also knew that the red mantis that had suddenly flown over was extremely strong. However, no matter how strong it was at least a Class 9 magical beast. He immediately took out a mid-grade body, securing talisman, and threw it at the mantis that was flying towards him. The flying mantis was frozen in place and immediately fell to the ground. Following that, Qin Yun controlled his saber to slash out. From afar, Mu Rongjun struck out with his Vajra inner strength and constantly struck the head of the red mantis. The power of the body securing talisman had lost its effect, and Shuezai had already gone over. The 2 sickles swiftly flew over and cut off the mantis's wings. Then, Huizhong leaped over, and when he landed, his long rod ruthlessly struck the mantis's head. Qin Yun took out the giant King Spirit hammer and descended from the sky. The hammer head smashed down like a meteor. It was the falling star style of the 6th style forging dragon. Boom! The giant hammer landed on the mantis's head. The alchemy and berserk runes were activated, and an incomparably scorching power exploded out, smashing the mantis's head into ashes. Hua Zhong and Xue Zai, who were at the side, were blown back more than 10 meters by the heat wave. Their bodies were flushed red from the heat, and they were drenched in sweat. Their hearts were filled with fear towards the scorching heat. When the disciples of Blue Spirit Star Palace saw Qin Yun kill the 6-winged mantis with a single strike, they let out a series of shocked exclamations. With a single hammer strike, the hard armor of the mantis was reduced to ashes. This kind of power was extremely shocking. One had to know that Qin Yun was only at the 8th level martial body realm. Xue Yihui was extremely shocked as he said, Qin Yun's alchemy runes should be top-grade spirit runes. Only then would it be able to produce such a strong, scorching power that instantly melted the bones of a Class 9 magical beast. This kid's martial spirit had already returned to normal. Just that hammer alone was enough to forge the materials needed to forge a top-grade spirit artifact. He might even be able to forge a top-grade spirit artifact. To be able to forge a low-grade spirit artifact at the age of 16 was already shocking. As for Qin Yun, it was possible for him to forge a top-grade spirit artifact. This was unacceptable to everyone. Although no one was sure if Qin Yun could forge a top-grade spirit artifact, they were certain that the giant King Spirit hammer in Qin Yun's hand was a high-grade spirit artifact. To be able to forge a high-grade spirit artifact at the age of 16, it could be considered heaven-defying. In the next few hours, everyone watched as Qin Yun led the team and easily killed Class 8 and 9 magical beasts. They obtained dozens of Class 8 magical cores and a few Class 9 magical cores. Such terrifying combat strength made many martial artists at the 9th level of the martial body feel ashamed. The sky was turning dark. Qin Yun and company left the desolate mountain and returned to the entrance of Blue Spirit Star Palace. There were already many teams at the entrance of Blue Spirit Star Palace. They were more or less injured, and most of the teams had returned very early. When Qin Yun and company returned, they did not have any injuries on their bodies. They only appeared a little tired. Qin Yun, what did you guys gain? How many Class 8 magical beasts did you kill? A young man asked with a smile. Just a few dozen. Murong Darren said with a faint smile. We're too weak. We only killed a few Class 9 magical beasts. I wonder what level we're at. When a man not far away heard this, he sneered. Young Master Murong, don't joke around. Not to mention Class 9 magical beasts, even Class 8 magical beasts are not easy to deal with. You guys can actually kill a few Class 9 magical beasts? This man had a good relationship with Sun Jinhao and company and hated Qin Yun and company a lot. He said with a smug smile, if Big Brother Sun and company killed a Class 9 magical beast, we would believe them. Ha! You only know how to brag. Chapter 230. Challenge Sun Jinhao was killed by Qin Yun and the others, and his corpse was burned to ashes. He will never return. When a man heard this, he said with a sneer, Qin Yun, are you saying that Brother Sun was killed by a magical beast? Are you sure they'll die? They are a team at the 8th level martial body realm. You are dead, but they're still alive. Qin Yun said with a smile, they weren't killed by magical beasts. They were killed by me. Do you believe me? This caused the other teams to look at each other in dismay. They could not believe that this was true. Although Sun Jinhao had been slapped twice by Qin Yun, it was not enough to kill him. That was because the 4 of them were at the 8th level martial body realm. Qin Yun, you have been with Murong for a long time. You also like to brag. How could you kill Big Brother Sun and the others? Although the man said so, he secretly believed it in his heart. Especially now that he was being watched by Qin Yun, he could not help but feel fear. With their strength, I'll destroy as many as they come. Therefore, I advise you not to have any ideas about us. Otherwise, I will make you die miserably. Qin Yun's voice was bone-chilling. It was filled with killing intent, causing the man to take a few steps back in fear. There were many people who were jealous of Qin Yun, especially those at the 8th level martial body realm. Therefore, Qin Yun issued a warning to let the people here know his strength. Ka ka ka. The door to Blue Spirit Star Palace slowly opened, and a large group of instructors walked out. Qin Yun looked over and saw Xiao Yuelon, Yang Shuriyue, Xia Wufeng, and Ho Xingfeng. They are very eye-catching among this group of people. Finally, Qin Yun's gaze landed on Xiao Yanglong previously. They were besieged by Sun Jinhao, and then they were besieged by a few old men at the 9th level martial body realm. This was most likely done by Xiao Yanglong. The moment Lan Fengjin came out, she hurriedly came to Qin Yun and company's side and asked, "Are your injuries healed? We saw the evil deeds of Sun Jinhao and his men. Well done." Hearing Lan Fengjin's words, those teams were completely stunned. Qin Yun and company had really killed Sun Jinhao and company. So it's true. So many of you saw our battle with the magical beasts? Mu Rongjun looked at the hundreds of people and his heart broke. He had been beaten up miserably and his image was very bad, yet he was seen by so many people. Qin Yun, don't worry. Although you killed Sun Jinhao and a few others, as well as a few 9th level martial artists from our Blue Spirit Star Palace, this is understandable. You don't have to worry about revenge. Shui Yihui walked over and said with a smile, "Your martial spirit should be fine now, right? Are you sure you want to join the Eastern Palace? After you cultivate in the East Palace for a period of time, you will definitely be able to enter the Saint Palace and become a Blue Spirit Saint. You will be able to become even stronger." Nangong and Beigong elders also shamelessly came over and offered many good conditions to invite Qin Yun to join them. However, they were all rejected by Qin Yun. Seeing Qin Yun reject them, the students of the Martial Arts Academy and the disciples of the Star Palace were all extremely puzzled. This was because it was extremely difficult for them to enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace, let alone the Saint Palace. To them, the Blue Spirit Saint Palace was a holy land that they yearned for even in their dreams. Unexpectedly, an elder from the Western Palace suddenly walked over and said with a smile, "Qin Yun, I know that you have some grudges with our Western Palace, but that is only a small misunderstanding. If we compare our heritage, our Western Palace is the strongest. Why don't you consider entering our Western Palace?" The conflict between the Blue Spirit West Palace and Qin Yun was not an ordinary one. They were actually so thick-skinned as to invite Qin Yun into the Western Palace. And the most surprising thing was that Qin Yun actually had plans to enter the Western Palace. "All right, I will enter the Western Palace, but not now. I wonder if this elder can make the decision to let me enter the Western Palace directly? And you even gave me generous conditions?" Qin Yun said with a serious expression. Everyone was stunned. Even the elder from the Western Palace did not expect Qin Yun to have such thoughts. Xiao Yuelon hurriedly asked, "Qin Yun, are you serious?" Qin Yun smiled. "Of course I'm serious. If you want to obtain stronger strength, you can only enter the Blue Spirit Star Palace, and there is no doubt that the Western Palace is the richest. All right, I'll make the decision. You can come whenever you want. But let me make it clear first. When you come, you must ensure that your martial spirit is normal." The elder nodded and said with a smile, "It's normal for you to be attracted by the generous conditions of the Western Palace. However, I still don't believe that you want to enter our Western Palace." Qin Yun looked at Xiao Yanglong, his eyes filled with killing intent. "That's because I want to enter the Western Palace and challenge Xiao Yanglong. I want to fight for his position as chief disciple. As long as he had enough strength, he could challenge the chief disciple at any time under a certain age. The prerequisite was that he had to be a disciple of the Western Palace in order to challenge the chief disciple of the Western Palace." When Xiao Yanglong heard this, he laughed out loud. "Qin Yun, you're only at the 8th level martial body realm, and you want to challenge me? I'm already 32 years old. As long as I reach 35 years old, I won't be able to be the chief disciple anymore." I'm afraid you won't be able to take away my position as the chief disciple. Qin Yun was filled with confidence as he said with a sneer, "Don't worry. Within 2 years, I will definitely enter the Blue Spirit West Palace and defeat you. Of course, you'd better live until then. Don't go around courting death." The vast majority of people felt that Qin Yun was somewhat confident. This was because in another 2 years, he might not be able to step into the martial Dao realm. Only by stepping into the martial Dao realm would he be able to defeat Xiao Yanglong. As the chief disciple and the crown prince of the Tian Shao Empire, Xiao Yanglong controlled the resources of the entire empire. In these 2 years, he would also have a breakthrough. No matter what, Qin Yun would not be his match. Qin Yun, don't let your thoughts run wild. If you force yourself to improve too much, it will affect you. Lan Fengjin walked over and pinched Qin Yun's arm. Qin Yun, it's better to be safe. If you force yourself to improve because of the pressure, it's easy for your cultivation to go berserk. Du Gui also advised. Shui Yihui walked over and sighed. Qin Yun, I know that you were ambushed outside and are very angry. However, don't worry. Evil people will definitely be punished. Just cultivate in peace and don't give yourself any pressure. Yuan, quickly persuade your husband. It's very dangerous for him to do this. Ho Xingfeng said. Only Xiao Yuan looked at Qin Yun with eyes filled with praise. She said coldly, Qin Yun, if you can't defeat Xiao Yanglong in 2 years, I'll divorce you. Ho Xingfeng's face was filled with a look of utter shock. He had originally wanted Xiao Yuan to persuade Qin Yun, but he never expected her to add fuel to the fire and encourage Qin Yun. Everyone was secretly speechless, but they felt that the two of them were very compatible. Even Xia Wufeng did not approve of Qin Yun's actions. However, he did not say anything. The main reason was that he could faintly sense the terrifying power in Qin Yun's body. However, it had yet to erupt. Xiao Yanglong said with a sneer, Qin Yun, since you are so confident, I guarantee you that I will live well and wait for you to challenge me. However, I have to tell you that the martial art competition will be a life and death battle. Only then will we be able to let go of our hands and compete. Do you dare to come? Why wouldn't I dare? Qin Yun had a faint smile on his face as his tone was filled with confidence. Xiao Yuan glanced at the silent Yang Shiyu. She also knew that the other reason why Qin Yun challenged Xiao Yanglong was to help Yang Shiyu get rid of the engagement. The elder from the Western Palace let out a long sigh and said, Since this is your choice, we will not interfere too much. Because no matter what the result is, we will have an outstanding chief disciple. 2 years later, I will enter the Blue Spirit West Palace and become a disciple of the West Palace. Then I will challenge Xiao Yanglong. Qin Yun's calm and confident voice spread in all directions. His vigorous inner force caused many martial Dao realm cultivators to be secretly alarmed. Just how strong was Qin Yun? Everyone was guessing in their hearts. This was because Qin Yun had the Heavenly Lion's arm and possessed the purple gold thunder flame martial spirit. He was also an inscription master. It could be said that he was unfathomable. Among the crown princes of the empires, only Xiao Yanglong had not been defeated by Qin Yun. If Qin Yun were to defeat Xiao Yanglong, he would undoubtedly be the strongest crown prince. Dean Bai shouted, Now we will begin testing the Xian bead. You should have also discovered that the more energy the Xian bead absorbs, the heavier it will become. Therefore, weighing it is the best way to test it. Let's begin. Only then did everyone remember that this was the most important thing. The strongest team was Xiao Yanglong's team, but Sun Jinhao and the others were already dead. Xiao Yanglong, who was enduring his anger, turned around and left, entering the Blue Spirit Star Palace. Lan Fengjin gently twisted Qin Yun's ear and said with a light snort, You damned brat, don't you know that Xiao Yanglong is the disciple of the Western Palace Master? He has done so many bad things, but he hasn't been killed yet because the Palace Master of the Western Palace is suppressing him. Qin Yun's eyes were resolute as he said, It doesn't matter. In any case, I must defeat him. If he wanted to establish himself in the Blue Spirit Star Palace, he had to display sufficient strength in order to be valued and receive more inheritances. Dembai began to weigh the Xian beads of each team. The result was shocking. Qin Yun and company's Xian beads weighed more than 100 kilograms, while the other team's Xian beads weighed no more than 10 kilograms. The difference between first and second place was more than 10 times. Such a huge difference made those teams begin to doubt their lives. Although Qin Yun and company had long known of this outcome, they were still very happy because they had obtained 100 million Xian points. This trial is over. All instructors will lead their teams back to the Heaven's Pride Academy. Dembai shouted. Other than Sun Jinhao's team, who had all died, the other teams were at most severely injured and did not die. Now, there was one less team that could return, and it was the strongest one. What made people sigh with emotion was that this strongest team was not killed by magical beasts, but by humans. The students and instructors of the Heaven's Pride Academy rushed to the Star Xian Wu Academy overnight. At noon, they were flying above the Myriad Star Lake and heading towards the Star Xian Wu Academy. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Look at the lake." You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.